live now. So, talk about something for a sec while I get this link going.
Heck yeah. Well, I don't have anything to talk about.
Nothing to talk about. Well, that's
Nothing to talk about.
good start.
I'll get to talk about my speed draw in person this
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna start that up now since people will be entering. Ooh, there we go.
There we go.
Um. Okay.
So
M is
I
here.
was perfect. Yeah, so for I think we talked about this obviously the last time, but I did want to do different styles for the interludes just because I think that's fun and like I don't want to divert my style too much like during the main story. Uh, Not that these aren't the main story.
Yeah, but these will give you a lot of leeway to do kind of whatever experimental thing you want without feeling beholden to it for like more than the one image.
Yeah, because this one took me the longest of any of the previous chapter drawings have because it was like such a diversion from my typical style, even though it's a comic page. But don't worry, Sigma, I only did one side of it. I was planning on doing a two-page spread, and I started and I said, "Oh, that's not gonna happen." So,
Yeah, yeah. Um,
um,
oh, is this the one in the Discord?
yes.
Oh, oh, did you already
I
post it?
Well, I shared it in my Discord because
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Dom and his friend had actually been watching me draw it, so I wanted to show them what it looked like. Um, yeah, so I did this comic book style, which I've never done before. It obviously still looks like my style, but like with the frickin' um half tones. That shit was hard.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, I'm a huge fan. It was so
Heck
funny when you were like, "You're gonna love it." Then I was like, "Man, I always love it, so that means it's gonna be crazy." And then you're like,
yeah,
"Temper your expectations."
yeah,
But it
exactly.
is crazy.
I didn't want to set it too high, but I was just like, I was drawing it and I was like, this is turning out really well. I think that I messaged you about it after I drew Vista, which you're gonna see her in just a second, because I was like, yeah, Vista looks great.
Yeah.
Um, I like this. I tried to draw. Gallant is like comforting and like somewhat holding up Aegis here, but it does a little bit look like he's hiding behind him coyly, and I still think that's cute, so it's okay.
Yeah, like either way, it's fine.
Either way. Oh my god.
I like
Yeah.
I like about this team that they're like they don't really know Browbeat and they don't really like Shadowstalker per se, but like the rest of them are all just like actually friends and that's kind of
Yeah,
cool.
the rest of them are all buddies, like Clockblocker, Aegis, and
Gallant.
I guess all of them are friends. Yeah, and then
Yeah,
like
and
Vista, everybody likes Vista,
because it's
even
like
though like
Aegis and Kid Winter tight, and then like Gallant and Clockblocker are tight, but they're all
yeah.
like friends generally.
Yeah, and there's no I like that there wasn't any like conflict about the leadership situation, like who was gonna take point in the chapter and stuff. Poor Clockblocker, I know, look at his fucking face. I tried to make him like moping a little bit. It's hard when his face like his whole face is covered, but
No, I think it's very well portrayed. Like it's clear to me.
he's like, ugh.
It's like worse looking than a wounded Animal Crossing villager.
Yeah, exactly. We're right about at the end here, I think.
Yeah.
So, and there's my beautiful Pico design. I think somebody later comments that her haircut would look good on a supermodel, maybe. So that's why I gave her the baby bangs. I was
Well,
like,
that's
yeah.
funny because that's what Victoria says about Natalie in War. She's
Oh,
just like,
really?
she's like, I guess that haircut could have looked good on a supermodel, but
Yeah. All right.
um,
It's all done. You can pull up the full image.
yes, yes. Now we will adjust screen size and then boop. I think I did it.
mode. Yeah, Pigo is an icon, a style icon.
So we'll jump into the chat. Hey everybody. Uh, who's in here? Megafire, Vale, um, M Laffer, of course. Yes, poor clock blocker indeed. Tiny Pigo, much like Tiny M. Um, and luckily for Victoria, there shall not be a 200-page version.
Oh my god, I would do it
Although,
just in like 10 years,
well, I
maybe.
was gonna say I take that back in a way because there's actually 302 chapters and you're doing some extra arts, so like in a way you will be doing over 200 pages, just sadly not all
Yeah,
comic book.
sadly.
I do
Yeah,
like your
I
normal style
honestly,
obviously, but this is
I
sick.
yeah, I like my normal style too because, but like this, I do that specific style because it's the quickest for me, and I would die if I did any other styles.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I agree with Vale. This is professional
Oh,
publication quality, and
thank you.
it's like I had been saying in the lead up, like because of my exposure to comic books being like mostly Silver Age, this is genuinely better art than the majority of comics I've read.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad it turned out. I drew it that day that well, most of it I drew it that day that I stayed home,
I
because
wasn't
I had
sure if you had stayed up all night drawing it. Like I was like a little concerned, but I was like, I'm just
no,
not gonna
but
ask
I
about
had
that
stayed
yet.
up all night thinking about it. Like I think it was like too prevalent on my mind. I like literally couldn't. It like woke me up
Yeah.
because I was thinking about this drawing.
Oh my god.
All right. We can start talking about the chapter.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's do it. I am scrolling up. So, oh, as a reminder for the audience participation, um, it was super last minute, and I put it up on the Discord today. But it was, what are your thoughts on Pigo's interactions with the wards? And we've only seen the one, but yeah. And then as a bonus, team building at the bank. Save your answers for the end and let your thoughts percolate. But you can pick 4 parahumans from the fight at the Brockton Bay Central Bank to form a team. Who would you have on this team? Each character comes with all their like gear and resources that they'd personally use. Like Kidwin would get all his tech, Bitch has the dogs, etc. And the capes are at the approximate skill level that they're at now. No tricks that they develop later on. So yeah, uh,
Cool.
lock your answers in now. Um, yeah, do you want to talk about the themes here, or do you want me to start off?
I'll start off. Our first theme, obviously. I only say obviously because I did see it in some of the audience participation answers that I was skimming through, but is bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Um, specifically, we're gonna see a couple the whole thing is basically takes place within bureaucracy. But we see that after the fight, the heroes have to go do a bunch of paperwork. The Tinkers apparently all of their stuff has to like be documented and go through checks and things before they're allowed to use it. Um, and then another like notable moment is that these are children, like just a reminder. This is their job, but they are like financially punished when they do a bad job. Like they straight up uh dock money out of their pay because of property damage that they were not like
And they don't have a good pay structure. Like we kind of learn about it
no.
overall. They get paid like a pittance, and they talk about like, oh, and you can earn bonuses toward going to college if you like keep your grades up, and it's like, what a nightmare.
And like who the fuck is what? I know that somebody in the background goes, "But I start college next fall."
Yeah.
But who the fuck is going to college when you have superpowers and you already literally have
Well,
like your
that's
whole
the thing
future
is
planned out?
like part of the craziness of the wards program that like they talk about later on is that like they're trying to prop up these like normal lives while also sending them out as like super cops, and
Yeah.
like obviously you should have them try and have like healthy lives and whatever, but maybe that's incompatible with using them as super cops.
I guess we can skip down because it's kind of relevant to like the parahuman perception.
Mhm.
Um, because they're not only super cops, they're celebrity super
Yeah.
cops. They had this freaking gift shop with almost life-size cardboard cutouts of them. Oh my God, that's so cringe. And
I
later on in the story, we kind of come to understand that they are not like national celebrities. They are like purely local celebrities, and that to me makes it even creepier somehow.
it it's well, the thing is that it's like being, I don't know. I think it's kind of like being a professional athlete because you can literally be traded between cities, and some people
Yeah.
know all the pros across the whole league, but just like most people only know all the team members of their own home team, and like with the rate at which these guys pop up and are gone, let's say,
Diminish.
yeah, then it can be hard to keep up with, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So it is funny that they're only like local celebrities, but it's kind of like selling the jersey at your home stadium. Yeah.
It's I don't know, it's kind of a lot for me. Maybe it's because I'm not a sportsman. I don't know these things.
Yeah, well, I'm not in that way. I'm not like for memorabilia, but I know about
Yeah.
what it's like.
You know about the sport.
I know about the sport. Um and then oh yeah, so here, so the PRT and Pigot, like overall they care more about the perception of capes than any individual like skirmish or moment. They're much more like focused on the big picture of like trying to integrate capes into society in a way that's sustainable, because um if they don't foster an environment where they're accepted, they could be driven in even larger numbers to being villains, which would be like a disaster for like groups like the PRT.
Yeah. I
So
mean, it would be a disaster for everyone.
yeah, yeah, no, it would be. It's just like a whole jumbled up mess, and it's kind of like they're I had put another theme and taken it off, but there's like kind of the escalation of violence kind of thing normally, and
Mhm.
people like Pigot are there to specifically put the brakes on that. And I know that later in the story she kind of like ups the ante, but I feel like we can view that as a result of like how backed into a corner everyone is at the time.
Yeah, I
But
think so.
here, like, she's definitely like, you shouldn't have used that bigger gun. You should have just let them get away, basically. So,
Yeah. She says, I could care less about the about the financial repercussions. She obviously did care because she punished them financially, but you know,
hmm
um, we also have having to do with the parahuman perception. This standout line from Miss Militia later on, she'll say, "I can't send you home with horrible injuries and hundred of bug bites, can we?" That would give away the show. So, not really helping with the whole like cops and robbers theory.
yeah, yeah. And then you had mentioned this, that they're spinning the fight as a win, and I had thought at first you meant like the PR win, but then if you want to talk about the other way you were talking about it, like changing
Yeah,
their own
it's just
minds.
yeah, they're trying to change their own perception of the situation, and I feel like that kind of has to do with like their whole like PR mindset like even extends like to an individual level.
Yeah, yeah. I think we have neglected a couple chats for a while. I'm realizing. And so Greg had said, "So where do I pre-order the Vic Parahumans art book?" And then M was saying that you've got to die for your art. Drawing so late that you couldn't even watch Selfie Dad.
Yeah, I was too tired to watch Selfie Dad.
I think you dodged a bullet. I think it may have really worn you out to see that film. I thought it was funny, but
I would have taken psychic damage.
yeah, exactly. And then the workflow of the teams is something that I wanted to bring up. I don't think that this is exactly the right wording for the theme, but I couldn't come up with a way to say it. Um,
Uh-huh.
Basically, like we get to see the differences between like the Undersiders putting in a lot of groundwork beforehand, the wards like kind of having a reactionary stance, showing up, and then having to do lots of paperwork afterward and get like information for other teams. But generally, like when a group acts first, they kind of set the pace of like a fight or whatever, and they have the advantage. But the heroes seem to mostly have like a reactive stance. Even when they appear outside the bank, even though they have kind of overwhelming numbers, they're still just waiting. Um, they never
Yeah,
seem to act first.
they're just kind of stand I always felt like that was weird. They're just kind of standing there and then they don't like gang up on, just like one person at a time because I don't know. I guess it doesn't help that the dogs are there causing chaos.
Yeah,
Vale said, there's a thread about who won from this chapter and the last and what it means to win. Taylor considers it a win because no one was injured. The wards consider it a win for interesting other reasons. Yeah, that's fair.
yeah. Um, and then I didn't actually put too much notable stuff because you had written the main body here, and I didn't want to. I hadn't fully read it, so I didn't want to like double up. But
Oh, that's fine.
we had both like talked a lot about how we think it's super weird that this chapter isn't from the perspective of Gallant, and how we think it is kind of a big missed opportunity, and like this same information. Like I still think this is a good chapter, but this chapter could be like one of the amazing ones, really. If we saw from Gallant's perspective and just had um all kinds of things that we could see through his thinker power that lets him see emotions. That's like an always on power. We not only get to see like how it feels to him, but also like a bunch of insight into all the team members, and like he would personally know all the dynamics of the team in a way that would come across in his prose, I think.
Yeah, and even though this is a Gallant heavy chapter, like there's so much we really like don't get to know Gallant here and like spoilies like we're not really going to get to
Yeah.
uh unfortunately, which like I don't know. I think that it makes like Ward a little bit more interesting because of that. Like we never got that close perspective that we get with almost every other character, so it's kind of like I don't know. It's definitely interesting. So I don't know if like it would take away from that if Wildbow did rewrite this chapter. Um, but I don't know. I would like to get to know Gallant a little bit more, and I think it adds like so much when we get the like close third person perspectives in the interlude chapters. So yeah, I was kind of disappointed at the like missed opportunities there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
But we'll talk about it kind of as like those moments come up if I want to start going through this.
Yeah.
So we kind of set the scene, and we are kind of walked through the scenery. We're looking at the Parahumans response team building. And William, can you help me with this because I was very confused if this is like the main PRT office that's like in the frickin' bubble island.
No, no, no. This is different. So this is a
Okay.
downtown office that is also connected to. I think it's the one that's connected to the hospital that they use later on. Um,
Okay.
But
So,
yeah.
is this primarily where the wards work out of? Like, just because it's easier for them, like probably near the school and stuff?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
where it's so the Protectorate headquarters is the Shield Island, but like the
Uh-huh.
PRT and the wards are both at this office. And a lot of times we sort of conflate the three groups in our head, but they are
Yeah.
theoretically three separate teams all under Pigo's command.
Okay. So that makes more sense. So then Pico like traveled to meet them here. Um, okay, cool. So yeah, I really liked the like imagery of it was kind of like us walking in and like getting to see all of the setting. They describe like the different groups of people. There's the men in the suits and then the PRT officers with their non-lethal weapons and then like the tour guide that's featured in my art here
Yeah, I thought
in,
that was pretty
in
great.
shock as he sees the heroes walking in with their injuries. Um, and I like that the details we go in talking about the specific weapons that the PRT officers had, because as far as I can tell, they were non-lethal weapons, which is really, it's like really different from like our current culture for like, obviously cops carry non-lethal weapons, but that's not their,
Right,
that's not
yeah.
their primary thing, you know?
Yeah. Um but yeah, I really like it, and I think it's because the existence of the like cops and robbers dynamic, like however real or skewed it is from the way Tattletale presents it, like it does exist to some extent because they can't up the ante by killing capes in the same way that they could
Yeah.
up the ante by killing civilians, because civilians don't have like a lot of recourse, but capes,
Mhm.
like if you back a really powerful cape into a corner, like they could wipe out a town, like
Yeah.
easy.
So we just leave the killing to the superheroes.
Yeah.
I think this is also our first mention, and they don't name it, but they have things that eject a thick, frothing spray of foam. I didn't like the imagery there, but that is their containment foam, and
Look,
that
I don't want foam ejected on me either, to be honest.
yeah. I can't remember I don't think they talked about it before, but it's just this foam that they spray on people, on capes specifically, and then they're just kind of stuck in the fucking foam.
Right.
Um,
It's called they just call it containment foam, and like you can also spray it on like a civilian to defend them, because it's like it I think it's bulletproof even. It's like just this substance that it's like one of those ones where if you hit it harder, it has more resistance, like, the slime that people make. Um
yeah, kind of bouncy as far as I can tell.
yeah, but you can breathe through it as well because it's kind of aerated. So it's not dangerous to put somebody under it in terms of airflow. And,
Bill
and
said
yes,
there's
it is Tinker technology, so it does
yeah, it's
break like laws of space.
Vale said there's such a vibe to the tour guide slash gift shop mentions. Sigma said, yeah, it gives an uncomfortably corporate feel.
Yeah,
That's where I'm most comfortable, Sigma.
Tinker Tech Oobleck rules half
Oobleck.
the time.
Yeah, so we kind of already talked about the gift shop. We can see some life-size cardboard cutouts of miners. Okay.
Well, I
Um,
also I think okay, so I do want to point this out because they'll like talk about it later, kind of.
mhm.
When they first become a cape on the team, they take like a picture of that cape in costume and they blow it up so that it's like just the like head and shoulders of that person is like a 4 foot frame picture.
Oh my God. Okay.
So it's like really outrageous. That's what I'm saying. Is it's not like cardboard cutouts. It's like really blown up pictures of them.
They're
And
like big heads or whatever.
yeah, and like Vista comments on her own when she looks at it that she's just like thinks it's awful because it's from when she was a
A
month
little
away from
kid.
turning 11, and so she's like 10 and has missing teeth in like the front portion of her teeth and is like doing a toothy grin. And she's like, Jesus Christ.
M asked where the funds go from the gift shop. I'm sure they go back into the PRT. Um,
Hmm.
like they probably just spent more money on marketing with it. There's Armsmaster underwear. I wonder if it's on shelf display here.
I hope so.
I hope so. Just awful. I'm just weirded out by it, but we won't talk about it. Um, yeah, and then we talked about how they're more like sports teams than normal celebrities. And also, this is like such a stupid reference, but there's this scene in High School Musical where Gabriella is singing at a giant poster of Troy in the hallway because he's like the sportman celebrity, but it's like it's so ridiculously huge and like there's so much going on in the poster. It's
That's hilarious.
I always felt like that was weird, but maybe this is just normal for
Dude,
local celebrities.
in the high school that you went to, there were
Yes.
two pictures of Greg for years, side by side, and it wasn't different pictures. It was just two of the same picture of Greg for like some award that he had won. Adrian pointed it out to me, my friend, at one point, and I was just like, "Oh my God, why are there just two Gregs leering down at us?"
Dude, I don't know what that high school is on. I'll dox myself. I don't know what Timberline is on, but they my dad went there the other day. Just so everyone knows, I am 23 years old and they still had my art like on display in a case there.
Yeah,
So, did I say 25? I'm 23.
you
Um
said it right.
okay, good. Yeah, so like 6 years later, they just do whatever they want.
Yeah. Um.
Okay. So
Yeah.
yeah, they finally we see what's going on and we see the wards enter the building and they are greeted by a quote unquote heavy set woman with a bob. This is Pigo. We love her. She's the director, right, of the PRT?
Yeah, she's the director of the PRT, and because of the way the org structure works, that also puts her above Arms Master, and of course, that uh, below Arms Master is
Miss
Aegis.
Militia. Oh, okay.
I mean, Miss Militia is a closer subordinate. Aegis is like
Yeah.
lower team, but you report to Arms
Yeah, to
Master.
Arms Man.
Yeah.
Okay. So just as a reminder, Aegis is in his like clock blocker costume soon. Still, sorry, it's been kind of like torn to shreds. Um, and it's noted that his identity would have been at risk if not for the gruesome injuries that he has withstood.
Yeah, I think you
Um,
might have given him a pretty intact face compared to what might have been going on.
well, the left side of his face is destroyed, but I
Okay,
wanted to get his grin going because I
gotcha,
liked that
gotcha.
scene.
Yeah.
Um, he oh, so he lets Pago know that he has a punctured lung, and then he fingers the hole in his body.
Oh
And
God, I hadn't
she
read this, so I didn't know you said that.
I wrote a lot of nonsense in here. He does do that. He
I
fingers his
know, I
hole,
know.
and then she is like neutrally annoyed at. Aegis thinks that it's funny when the PRT officer that's like escorted them is upsetty, and Pago shuts him down for laughing. Her expression hardened. I wouldn't be smiling right now, which makes Aegis and the rest of the team really sad.
I love
um,
your like sad emoticon in the text here.
yeah. They're pretty disappointed. Aegis was trying to lighten the mood. Um,
Yeah.
featured featured in the art. So Pagetto starts kind of like picking them apart. Um, she isn't concerned about the fact that they lost. She's more focused on the property damage, and the fact that they invited Glory Girl, who was damaging property on purpose.
Yeah.
She just kind of like broke that marble table in half.
I would
Just for fun.
yeah, just for the intimidation. And maybe for funsies, to blow off a little steam. Um
Um,
but I think like we are when we talked about it earlier, maybe underselling how much property damage there is. It's probably significantly more than the amount of money
Sh-
they took in terms of
She
dollars.
describes it as tens of thousands. So, and I'm pretty sure they did not get away with that much money, right? They got away with like 20,000 or something.
Um yeah, it let's see here. Well, the tens of thousands was how much the fine on uh yeah, on them for the property damage could be, but I think the actual amount of damage was probably more because they broke the whole bank facade to like a really expensive building, and then um they destroyed the street, like they tore it up to the point with the cannon to the point where I think they like they could potentially have damaged the sewers. They'd have to
Yeah.
inspect it at least. And then they like damaged the inside of the bank. The table got destroyed. It's probably a
Yeah,
really
Stigma says
expensive.
giant marble tables are expensive and or walls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a whole thing.
And the window.
Yeah, and that window.
That window she shattered.
Yeah.
Um, so Gallant kind of butts in to let her know, oh, I'm the one who invited Victoria. I'll take the financial blame.
Don't
Um,
worry. I'll
oh,
take
it's
all
all
the blame.
yeah, exactly. She makes fun of him. Pago is like such a savage. Like she always has a comeback.
Yeah, I mean like she's ready to like verbally spar with these
With
teens.
these
She's
teens.
just like fuck you. You're
Fuck
not getting
you.
away with this. You're not talking your way out.
Pago thinks that it's more quote unquote fair to split the fees between everyone by docking their pay. But it seems to me like that's mostly based around well, she does say outright that it's based around the fact that Gallant is apparently rich, so it's not like a good punishment. And she wants to punish him by making him feel really bad.
And probably also making the others like not want him
Like
to do that kind of thing to
yeah,
pressure
like
him
try
to
to keep everybody in line, like they do in the military or whatever, where you punish. Oh my God, that makes so much sense. Is it
collective
spoilies?
punishment is actually considered a war crime.
Is it spoilies if I say Pago it does have a military background,
Yeah, she
so
does.
she probably maybe she was inspired by that. Um,
Yeah, because I mean, like she wasn't just like a street level cop or something. She was like a commando.
yeah, she's fucking. Oh,
They let
what a
her
girl
use
boss.
the like brand new Tinker Tech that you have to have a license for.
Yeah.
So
Um, so everyone's pretty upset, rightfully so, because Amy was literally being held hostage there. Victoria would have shown up anyways. But Paco's not really having any of it and just waits for the arguments to die down. And then she goes on to start attacking Kid Win, who had deployed his undocumented alternator cannon. We kind of talked about that bureaucracy shit earlier. Uh, with the fact that like they can't really do things on the fly in the same way that the Undersiders or like another or even like Victoria, like New Wave is allowed to do.
yeah, like New Wave can get away with doing a lot of stuff that probably the wards and the protectorate couldn't, and they still get the benefits of like the way that the costumed arrest laws were written because they were leaned on to be favorable to like hero teams basically.
Hmm.
So but because of the actual governmental nature of the wards and the protectorate, there's just different stuff they have to deal with. So yeah, there is a lot more freedom for like a independent hero team. You just don't have government money.
Yeah. I'm gonna read this
Mm-hmm.
excerpt here. I put quite a few excerpts in here, so I hope I don't tire you guys all out. uh that's where you'd be wrong, Pago told him. Fact of the matter is, the money that was taken for the bank falls very low on my priority list. You might even go so far as to suggest I don't care about it. director Aegis started, he didn't get to finish. What I care about is the public perception of capes. I care about ensuring that we get enough funding to keep you wards, the Protectorate, and the PRT squads paid and equipped. Without that, everything I've worked to build falls apart. Um, and I know we're supposed to hate Pogo, but I just love her. She's such a hashtag girl boss. And this like scene totally reminded me of myself, like when I get all mad at work because I don't care about like the company succeeding or anything
I know
like
what you
that.
mean, but I care about like
I
our
care about the work
specific
that
team members.
yeah, I care about our specific team members and I care about the work that I have put in to make things work.
Yeah.
And so like I feel like Pago's in a similar situation there.
Yeah. Agreed.
So Pigo and Kid haggle about the alternator cannon and they settle on him keeping it for emergencies, but she's going to take the power source. And then I think he like is a little bit too relieved or something because she kind of punches him by ending the discussion with a threat that if the cannon doesn't pass review, he's going to jail.
Straight to jail.
Straight to jail,
Do
straight
not
to
pass
bug
go.
jail.
Yeah, jeez.
Aegis, his best bud, tries to butt in and defend Kid Win, but Pago roasts him into oblivion. Uh, I wasn't gonna read the line because I didn't think I could pull it off. Do you want to read it?
Let me see here. It's
Try punctured.
oh, okay. Oh, oh wait, no. Sure. Oh yeah. Be quiet, Aegis. Or wait, she snaps it. Be quiet, Aegis, Pigo snapped. Your trying to speak with a punctured lung physically pains me, and as much as I admire you standing up for your team, your one lungful of breath is wasted here.
Yeah, she's just always got a
Savage.
fucking quip.
Yeah.
So they kind of give up. Then she asks Kidwin to come with her to disciplinary review, and then the rest of the team clean themselves up for incoming tour groups and reporters that'll probably come in with them. So Aegis leads the team off to debrief. I thought it was interesting here because like she obviously doesn't give a shit about that part of the team dynamic. She just tells them go clean yourself up. She doesn't say like get to work basically.
I feel like
Um
that's almost like fully implied already. Like her standards
mm,
are set already, and this is like she's upset with them, so she meets with them about this other
yeah,
aspect.
that
But they're not
tracks.
slacking on the paperwork because if they were, she would also breathe down their neck about that.
Clockblocker mentions that he's going to be having nightmares, which is obviously an underreaction. Clockblocker, like you're gonna have more than nightmares. um, and then I was having kind of a hard time understanding like the setup here, so I was just gonna read it. Um, the room was roughly dome shaped, but there were sections of wall that were able to be dismantled and rearranged on the fly. Some had been set up to give the various team members their individual quarters, while others framed the doorway that led into the showers, the filing room, and their press/meeting room. A series of computers and large monitors were networked at one side of the room, surrounded by a half dozen chairs. One of the monitors was displaying a countdown to the next tourist group, while others were showing camera images of key locations in the city. The central bank was one of them, a dark image punctuated by the red and blue of police sirens.
Okay, so what were you having sort of trouble with?
Um, like the sections So the room is dome shaped, so like a half sphere in my mind, right? And then
Mhm.
sections of the wall that could just be dismantled,
So I think
probably.
that's kind of I think that's basically just clunky wording, but I think what it is not that sections of the dome's wall specifically, like the curved wall, is you can take that apart. I think it's that
Mm.
much like the Undersider's loft, and I was just thinking this while you were reading that I hadn't thought of it until just now. This is kind of like a direct mirror to the fact that the
Yeah,
Undersiders have like cubicle
little
wall
cubicles.
style, because it's like I forget if they're 8 or 10 feet, but those aren't like super tall walls when there isn't a ceiling because like not having a ceiling on a room is a completely different feel, and like the sound is open to the rest of
Uh-huh.
the building still, and that's what this is like. They have their own little cubicles within this area, and they lead to the same like sorts of things. Their rooms, the little shower, the place where they do the planning, in the
Mhm.
front here. So it's a lot of shared kind of stuff. They do have a little PR exit here, they say. Um,
Yeah. And then the fact that people can seemingly like just come in as they've like tourists or whatever, like into what is essentially like their living quarters. I know they don't technically live there, but like they each have like a little bedroom set up and stuff. I don't know, it just seems really
it does.
gross
It
and
seems really
creepy.
invasive to me as well, but it
Yeah.
like honestly reminds me of how people can just roll through our like workplace, like just weirdo corp
Yeah,
people. Um,
yeah.
and they're just like in
They
our space, and
show
it's
us
like I practically live here, so like fuck off. Um,
off. Yeah, they come in and they start messing with the lights and the temperature and stuff, and you're like, oh my God.
yeah,
I
Jesus, when
guess
they
it
just
is
turn
kind
up
of
the lights
similar.
all the way. Ugh,
Imagine if it was like that, but every time somebody came in, we had to
put
very
masks
quickly hide
on.
our identities.
Yeah, just like, oh no, you can't see my eyes. Um,
So Gallant comments on the fact that Shadowstalker didn't join them for the fight. Aegis had told her to stay put, partly because she couldn't make it in time, whatever that means. She's very quick. um, oh, I guess it's because um, I don't know. I don't know if it's
Shadowstalker
spoiler
goes
to
to
say she
Winslow
doesn't go
High.
to school. Yeah, she doesn't go to school with them. So
Yeah.
she's kind of far away. And then, but mostly because she has a quote unquote hate on for Gru in Clockblocker's words,
Mm-hmm.
which she does. She's got a Gru problem. Um,
It's been mentioned in the stuff before,
yeah,
both during the planning and when they talked about Taylor moving in. They talked about how she had shot him with like live
with
ammo.
the lethal ammo, and he had bled all over their couch. Um, And I don't think they really ever talk about like what triggered that except the fact that like her power doesn't work properly within his power and it bothers
Right,
her.
because of the sort of like low level Trump aspect to his power where it messes with other powers. I'm pretty sure for like breakers like Velocity and Shadowstalker where they go
Uh-huh.
into a separate state to like move fast or to move through things, it like
Uh-huh.
basically for the most
It's
part
like
nullifies
in
their
their
power.
stuff. It's kind of like because they talk about and I guess I had forgotten this later on in the book because they don't talk about it often, but they do here where like it's harder to move in it, like it's kind of giving you resistance and stuff. So like imagine if you're Shadow Stalker, she dissolves into a shadow state. Um and so there's like stuff in her, right? If she tries to
Yeah.
do that.
And normally she
Yeah, so
tries to like ride the wind and stuff. I bet she'd just be like buffeted around inside his.
yeah, she wouldn't be able to move the way that she wants to. So, but I was glad that Shadow Stalker didn't show up because I hate her. So, just wanted to mention that.
Good mention.
Um, Aegis heads off to shower and patch himself up. Gallant kind of immediately takes the lead and directs Vista to grab a whiteboard for them, and he consoles Browbeat on Kidwin's situation and kind of said, "Oh, Piggy just wants to scare him." And I think it's interesting here because he says he has a gut feeling about that, but we like literally learn in this chapter that he can see, it's not just a sense, like he can physically see people's emotions and like an aura around them.
Yeah,
So
and
like
we
I,
actually learn later that different characters sense emotions different ways. Like
mhm,
there's the character Cherish who like hears emotions as music.
mhm. Yeah, so I don't know, it would have just been really cool to have seen that ourselves. Um
Yeah.
and and it seems like it's something Gallant doesn't talk about. Maybe it's because like he knows it makes people uncomfortable, that like he can sense it or whatever. Because
Yeah.
he could have said like, "Oh, I sensed it," or like I saw she was being like mug or whatever the fuck he could
Right.
have said, but
And
he didn't.
it's not like it's a secret from the team because when we get to see from some of their perspectives later, like when they're talking amongst themselves, like they just casually talk about that as though it's just a thing they all know about.
Yeah, it's like a known thing, but I think maybe he like tries
Yeah, he
to
downplays it probably.
downplay it. Yeah.
Because I mean, there's people
Um,
like Amy who specifically say how they just like hate it. It just makes them like it makes
it's
her want
like
to crawl
really
out of her
bothersome.
skin.
Yeah, I was gonna talk about that too. Like, I don't know. I don't think it would bother me that much. If one specific person could see only my emotions, that would be one thing. But like somebody who can see everyone's emotions, I'm not really concerned with like what they think about me specifically. You know what I mean?
I think that she has a self-image that's very negative and she already sees herself as this like terrible person.
Yeah,
And so
that's,
she probably
she probably thinks that they're. I mean, she might be right.
yeah, and I mean she's worried about like her secret, the same one that Tattletale brought up, getting out and like it's just this whole mess for her.
Vista brings back the whiteboards and turns bright pink from being thanked by Gallant. Just a reminder that Vista's cringe.
Yeah, yeah, I mean for sure.
um, Gallant starts off by shocking his teammates into disbelief by stating that today was not a failure. In fact, it was a win for the good guys. um, This line is whatever. I said it's cute and funny. I must have been tired. But it's kind of a good reminder of how people's powers like kind of go along with their own personalities and tendencies. Like we don't know a lot about Gallant here, but the impression that I got is that like he leans towards wanting to elicit an emotional response from people, which like totally makes sense with what his power is. It's like a real one to one. Um, and like not to accuse Gallant of anything, but I kind of got the same feeling about his interactions with Vista. Like I don't know. I guess what
I
I'm
feel like it's
equating it
almost
to.
across the board where it's like I think that he wants this really good persona. So he does want like people to be happy with him and I don't think it's like a lot of things that like are just normal teen emotions if you say them in a weird way they sound really
Yeah, they
underhanded.
sound
So
really
I
weird.
don't I don't think that he has like any specific shady motivations, but I think just like low key he wants people to look up to him, he wants people to like him, he wants to have a good image. I don't
Yeah, I think he wants to be admired to
yeah, yeah.
some extent. And that totally makes sense because like if you could see exactly how people are feeling towards you, like it would make sense that you would like try to aim things that way.
I also feel like there's a reasonable chance that his power makes him feel, and this is another thing that I wish we got to understand about his interiority, but that his power would make him feel really, like sometimes overconfident, but a lot of times probably, question himself and stuff, and be
Uh-huh.
like really self-critical if he, either um, feels like people don't like him or whatever, or like he's the cause of somebody's issue, or like if he just feels like he's falling in somebody's eyes, like that could really, like I could see him being a really insecure person, possibly, but again,
Yeah,
we don't really know.
fortunately. Um So after his teammates like finish their reaction, he goes on to say that they now have much needed intel on the group that they had been missing out on before. Like even with the undersiders starting to pull up higher profile jobs, none of them had like interacted with them seemingly, except for Browbeat and Shadowstalker in a one-on-one sense. So Gallant writes out each Undersider member's name on the whiteboard, but then he pauses when he gets to our hero, Taylor.
Yeah, the hero
Um,
of the whiteboard story.
sorry. So we're reminded here that none of the wards really interacted with Taylor at all, and they in fact misgender her. I just pulled out here. He wrote Regent on the second board, drew a
Worm?
line, and then worm, and then hesitated at the fifth and last column. Did he name himself the guy with the bugs? Girl, clock blocker corrected him. I was talking to the hostages after the Undersiders made their getaway. He said he was afraid to move because she was going to make it bite him. It took me a minute to realize exactly what he meant. Poor fellow was in shock. Clock blocker obviously has a lot of sympathy for uh, the hostages. What
I
did
wanted to
Vale
take a
say?
second. Yeah, this is some good stuff. You want to read it?
Yeah, Vale said there's probably a really insidious feedback loop with seeing emotional response and being able to impact emotional response. Yeah, definitely. Like he can't unknowingly slash unintentionally train himself to do an act in a way that leads to a preferred emotional state from those around him. That
Right,
that totally seems right.
for sure. And like I think that your power is more than like for his it manifests in this very literal like way that can be like directly traced, but essentially he can do what his emotional blasts do with just regular human actions guided
Yeah.
by his emotional sense. And it's like even if he didn't have that, like with his power he could potentially still be the kind of person where like that's their base modus operandi of just like the
Mhm.
way they interact with the world. I don't even think it's like a bad thing per se, but it
No,
could be
it's just
bad
something.
depending on how it like the actual actions that the person took.
And Gallant seems to try to use it for good.
Yeah,
Gallant is like a legitimately like good and well-meaning person. And so like I don't really doubt that.
yeah. I mean, I agree. Like with all I know about him from like everything that's said in Ward, like you know, because you get some more background on him and stuff too a little bit
Mhm.
later. But just he seems like kind of a fuckboy teen, but like fine, like not that bad of a
He's
guy. Like wanted to be
he's
good.
fine. Yeah, you want it to be good, and that's what mostly what counts, except when Taylor does it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Vale says exactly. He doesn't even know what that is what he is doing. It's just part of his reality. So Gallant decides that they need to name her Taylor, I mean, or the paperwork will be inconsistent. And this kind of comes off as something typical for them. We can see the similar example with how they renamed Bitch to Hellhound. Um, Grubby offers to stick her with a crappy name because he's a noob. Um,
And the only reason they don't need to name like regent and stuff is because like arms master is like a super researcher we'll kind of learn later, so he was able to like find that out. But like for example the wiki doesn't have an article whatsoever for regent, so like
yeah.
they kind of just have to like wing it sometimes.
Yeah, they just kind of do their own thing. And then is that why they call it Worm? Oh my God. They don't name her Worm, in fact, because Clock Blocker reminds everyone that it'll make them look shitty if they lost to somebody with a name like Maggot or Worm. Vista recommends Stinger and Pestilence because she's a creative queen, but apparently not creative enough because both those names are already taken. And then Gallant finally suggests Skitter, which turns out to not be taken and is good enough for them.
And skitter has
And
already been used in the story to describe
when
bugs
she
moving
was
around
skittering, yeah.
and glass skittering across the floor.
Oh yeah, the glass did skitter.
Yeah.
Well, Skitter's gonna do a lot of skittering. Uh, I love Skitter's name. In a little bit, I think that she says it straight out the gate. She's like, "Nah," when they name her,
Yeah.
but she does go by it for
A
quite some
long
time.
time. Yeah.
How do you feel about the name and if it's a good fit?
I do think it's a good fit. I don't know how to describe it, but it sort of gives the atmosphere of the way, like, she's sneaky, right?
She's always
She's like a little
skittering.
freak, and she's like not only will she skitter around hiding, she will skitter up to you. She will skitter away from you. She'll skitter in any
Yeah,
direction.
like, the way that Taylor moves when it's described by other people, like, she, like, also just, like, looks like that's why she got bullied is because she, like, looks and moves like a freak, and so I do think that Skitter is a great name for her. Phil said, "One other thought on Gallant. Remembering when I was a super insecure kid, if I had the ability to actually see how people felt about me, I would not have been insecure." Such a confidence boost, yeah, and, like, he's somebody who's, like, rich and charming, like, he probably already, felt pretty good about himself
Yeah.
and can utilize those things to feel good about himself.
Right, right, right. Um
Um, God, I love Skitter. Okay.
it's a good name.
S
If you could name her something alternate, can you think of something off the top of your head that you would name her? Like if you were in the
um,
brainstorm session right now, I'm gonna try to.
I kind
Um,
of thought, like, Hive would be good for her.
oh, that's a good name. Yeah,
Yeah, just 'cause she's got a hive mind, she gives people hives, you know?
yeah, yeah. Um, I'm trying to think of a lot of them don't they like feel like they fit until I think about it more like swarm, but it's like she herself is not the swarm. She just has a
Yeah,
swarm.
yeah, that's what M said. But I
Oh,
don't know,
jeez, I wasn't even looking at M's comment. I was
yeah,
like,
you guys got the same idea.
yeah.
I think anything that's kind of like grungy. She's kind of like grungy and grimy. Like that's the type that I like for her names.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I feel like she could have a name, like obviously it's laden with a bunch of stuff in real life, but like Black Widow would be like a name for her. She literally uses them and used them to spin her first costume.
yeah.
Um,
How about recluse for Brown
oh, that's
Recruit?
cool. And that's like a like cape names are usually like that, where they like
Yeah, it's because
take a
it's
bit
like a
of
double
thinking.
meaning.
Yeah, that'd be
Oh,
pretty good. And her first armor
but
was like a dark brownish color.
yeah. Vale says meta topic. Wildbow wrote the start to worm like 40 plus times trying to find the right pro tag. He wrote Skitter start and it was in his mind perfect. Skitter is a wonderful name. Yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
good stuff.
Um
I'll move on. So Gallant prompts the team to start sharing any detail, no matter how insignificant, of the team and their powers. They begin to fill up the whiteboard with things that they learned from the battle. I don't think we learn anything here, so we won't worry about that. But Aegis, who is name dropped to be Carlos, returns shirtless. He seems to be pretty like body confident for a guy who's like been torn to shreds.
well,
Um,
I get the I get the impression so he kind of feels like someone who would be and this is just vibes only. I have no evidence for this. But he kind of just feels like a kind of person who is like he had some insecurity about his body and like I don't know how his power feeds into that, but in like a small way, like the way that Gallant's like emotion sight can like boost
yeah,
confidence for Vale. Maybe this power was like kind of filled in a gap and like he is confident in like he feels like no like weird shame or like anything about his body because it's just like it's also like this weird alien thing now like this is zombie body.
yeah. Like this is like part of.
So there's a lot
It's
of
not really
like
himself.
ways it might go. But again, we don't really know his personality that well,
I
unfortunately.
don't know if this would be interesting for other people, but I actually based my like my Aegis drawing and like kind of the vibe I was going for off of this kid that I actually knew in real life because I don't know, he just kind of reminded me of him. And he like had a rib that would stick out, and this is like also why he reminded me of him. Um and he could like push it back in and pop it, and it was like pretty um like significant where you could see it when he was wearing a shirt or whatever. And I remember like when I met him, I was 15 and I was like so shook that I met somebody who was like still like confident and not like insecure about this weird thing about their body that it like shook me to my core. And so, yeah, that just kind of reminded me of him. And maybe it's like a, I just got this weird thing going on. I'm not really worried about it.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's cool. That sort of
Em
reminds me.
said, "You, Emily, you're terrible."
That reminds me of how I used to joke about that my superpower is one of the things I can do is touch the back of my hand with my index fingers and my left pinky, um,
Yeah.
and so that's my shitty superpower is this like inward, like I don't know, I can only stretch in certain ways, and it feels like I have some sort of body issue that's just not identified. But
Got stretchy muscles, I guess.
yeah, something
Stretchy
like that.
bones.
Stretchy bone
I was
syndrome.
I was also a little bit confused because I guess I definitely thought Aegis was a healer. Does he not heal, or like it would just take him a normal amount of time to heal these injuries?
So I think that he is a healer, but he's not like a speed healer. He is like
He just heals really slow.
simultaneously undying. I think he heals a lot faster than a regular person, but do you remember how fast Triumph
Like,
heals?
say it again?
Triumph in the
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, when he heals after his fight where he gets like really hurt, then he's up in a few days, but it does take a few days. Um
Hmm.
and I mean,
Vale said, I can dislocate my finger and thumb to the point they lay perfectly flat in ways they shouldn't. That's
oof.
very fun.
My brain does that like kind of inner like cringe away from that thought where it's like
Oh,
you feel a phantom pain that you can't even like identify because you're like
because you've
trying
never
to sublimate
experienced.
this alien. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what happened in my brain.
Okay, so Aegis would be fine eventually, but it probably helps that Miss Amy is coming.
Yes,
So,
I remembered just now I did want to bring up that another missed opportunity from not getting the dean perspective, as we could say, is that
mm.
if we were in his head, we would see like he probably thinks of all these people by their first names. Um,
Yeah.
and I think that that would be interesting because it would really humanize the team that Taylor just fought. Like this already does, but I think that would more if you are like from their own perspectives, naming them with casual like names that people you've talked to would have.
Yeah, exactly. Like to call Clockblocker his God-given name here after what we saw happen to him.
Yeah.
Um, so, interrupting the team's work, an abrasive noise and a flash on the computer screen indicate that company is coming. Imagine I said that in
Chris Fleming
Chris
Gale voice.
Chris Fleming Gale voice. Company is coming.
I think we
But
should
it's
post this clip in the general, the one you sent to me this
oh,
morning,
I'm
because it's
sure
exactly
everyone
that.
saw it, but I'll post it.
Oh,
But
did you
just
already
kidding.
post it?
And
Because
no, oh no, no, I will.
I was just gonna say I don't think
Hold on.
most people know Gale, unfortunately.
Oh my God, everyone should know Gail. But and Emily introduced me to Gail.
Huh.
What a queen. But it's actually just Arms Master and some sexy lady. What
Mm.
the fuck? I had to look up what winsome meant. I'd never heard such a word.
I had heard it,
Um,
but I didn't actually know the exact meaning, and I did look it up this week. Because I was
okay.
like, I don't know quite what that means. Like, I got it from context, but I just wanted to be sure I was
Yeah.
right.
It it Emily, you introduced me to Chris Fleming and Gail. Um Yeah, winsome. I think this is funny because as far as I can tell, this is like a communal thought. Like she came in and everyone's like, "Wow."
Vista's like, I like Gallant, but Miss Militia too, though.
This militia is pretty cute. She's wearing a military-esque uniform and it's tight in all the right places. It's decked out in American flags. She's got, I think, one around her waist, and then she has one over her mouth,
Yeah,
because
it's the
she
main part of
did
her. That's
COVID.
like her mask. Yeah,
Yep.
she already knew not to like. That's the important part. When we joked earlier about having to wear masks at work, I literally already do wear a mask over the lower
Yeah, we
half of my
already
face at
do.
work. So I
Um,
guess I just need to cover my eyes.
and she's wearing a rocket launcher in like a really flirty way too. Like she's got her arms kind of like draped over it with it on her shoulders. I think that's how they describe it. Um, yeah, she's just so cool. We love Miss Militia. So we won't go too like deep into it, but Miss Militia has this green energy that kind of transforms around her while she's talking, and it'll just turn into the different weapons. It like kind of it like rotates and then it'll turn into a weapon and she'll hold it and then it rotates again and it'll like settle on things, but she can seemingly just like change it on a whim.
Yeah,
Um,
I think also if she's not focusing, that's when it just does whatever and like is kind of all over the place. But if she focuses on it, it's whatever she wants it to be.
Yeah. I wrote that Gallant and Miss Militia flirt. Excuse me, ma'am, he is underage. They don't actually flirt, but he seemingly like is like, "Oh, hello, ma'am," and she's like, "Haha, you're so polite," and it made me cringe. Um, and then our favorite character comes out hiding behind them, and it's Panacea,
I think that you used another word. Your favorite what?
my favorite baddie. But after shaming Miss Militia for talking to Gallant like that, I didn't think I should say it.
You immediately talk to a team like that.
So my favorite bestie comes out of hiding. It's Panacea. And Miss Militia lets the team know that Amy came to heal them up. And she makes that joke that we referenced. Can't send you home with horrible injuries and hundreds of bug bites, can we? That would give away the show. Good one, Miss Militia. Um, Amy thanks the team for saving her and for letting Glory Girl come with them. She lets them know that Glory Girl took the fight pretty hard as someone who's like supposedly invincible. In fact, she kind of implies that the to the wards that she is invincible. So maybe they don't know. I'm assuming Gallant like has a better understanding of her power.
Yeah,
But like
because they still like for the most part think it's an always on invincibility. Like they think that she has Alexandria's power.
yeah, they think she's baby Alexandria, which is silly. That's okay though. It feels like
Powers don't
what
usually
you
skew that
said.
close together. Like there aren't that many
Yeah,
powers that are like that closely aligned.
yeah. And if they are, they like work different. Like they should be able to think about, oh, the rest of her family all has shields,
Yeah,
and none of them really have super strength, right? They
right.
just
Yeah.
have their own thing going on. So I don't know. And what you said, you mentioned to me earlier, like it's kind of weird as like this whole team that is focused around being uh like transparent that people don't even know what her power is.
Yeah,
So
that's definitely a thing. Also, I thought you made a good point here that you had skipped over.
oh yeah, just that like Miss Militia like joking about their injuries or whatever doesn't make the cops and robbers theory look invalid. Like, oh, we don't want to give away the show.
Yeah.
I I know that it's a joke, but like that's like literally how they treat these things.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of the time in these like lower stakes fights.
Mhm.
So our man compliments the team's work. I'm sorry, I don't want to confuse Emily. This is Arms Master. compliments the team's work on the whiteboards, but he comments that Tattletale's column is pretty much empty. But Panacea might be able to help. You know,
Yeah.
she, she worked pretty closely with her. Amy claims that she's kind of out of it from having her life threatened. I guess it's not a claim. It probably is true. And drops that her power actually doesn't work on herself. So any injury that she gets is like she's not going to be able to protect herself from.
Yeah.
Uh, I feel like she could figure something out.
I
Like she could,
really I feel like she even does in the story. She makes a makeshift like thing to make a wound stop bleeding by like turning the bacteria in the air or whatever into like things she can use for clotting. So like she literally
yeah,
does have ways to heal herself. She's just not invested enough to. Oh
to
man, holy crap. That's like a metaphor. She's not
huh.
willing to like turn her attentions to heal her own problems. Like, oh, that's juicy.
Oh, Amy. Um,
Cuz that's in line with
are
her behavior for the rest of everything.
yeah, definitely. She, she she needs to focus more on herself, huh?
Yeah,
Because
a little bit.
she's causing problems for other people with her self neglect.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Armsman tries to like pressure Amy. I wrote classic, but is cut off by Miss Militia, who isn't plagued by Armsmaster's man brain.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Miss Militia's she's just a nice lady. She's good-hearted. She has lots of empathy, and I feel like she's like feminine in a way that like a lot of like superhero industries shy away from because they like don't understand how to write women.
Mhm.
Like Miss
Definitely.
Alicia's power is literally like gun, um, but like they still were able to develop her a lot past that. So even in these like tiny moments.
Yeah, and it's like we were talking about this kind of a lot before the stream when we were working on this doc, and I feel like
Uh,
it could be so easy to write her like Orin from Final Fantasy X or like Butcher from this book later on, where she's like
mm.
this really flat, quiet character who just doesn't say that much, but like she talks a lot. She has a lot to say. She has like a lot of interpersonal and diplomatic skills that she like uses all the time. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think obviously he writes all the characters well, but I think that Wildbow does a really good job of writing woman characters. Got a
Mhm.
lot of variety in there, and you know, he didn't let his man brain get in the way. So Gallant then disgraces his name by asking to be checked out first by Panacea. Um, dude, are you kidding me? This is like so cringe. Like Amy is like, what the fuck? Um, because like that's such a weird move for Gallant, especially. And then Clock reminds us with a goof that Gallant and Glory Girl are in fact boyfriend and girlfriend, in case anyone forgot.
I want to point out
Gallant.
something that we actually skipped over
Okay.
earlier where um uh where Clock Blocker was poking at his own bug wounds under the mask. So he's been doing that in this room, which has gotta hurt, right? It just seems like he
I
should get some
also like
relief.
when Clock Blocker went up to the like eye scanner or whatever, and he was like concerned that Aegis didn't do it himself. I never understood what that was like, what exactly he was weirded out by, but now that I read it, I think that he's probably like, oh, I don't want things near my eyes right now.
What I
Like
what I had
he's been
thought,
through so much.
I guess I had always interpreted that as like he thinks of Aegis as the person who does that because he's like the leader or whatever.
Uh-huh.
So it was just like a weird self confidence issue.
Yeah. He was just kind of, there could have been that going on. Um, they go off to like the far point of the room where um like Gallant's bed cubicle is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just gonna read this. The pair went to Gallant's alcove, and she sat down on the bed before laying a hand on his shoulder. She pulled her hood back and furrowed her brow. You don't have a punctured lung. You've got one fractured rib, but you're not even in that much pain. Why? I lied. I wanted to talk to you, alone. He took her hand. She scowled and pulled her hand back like he'd bitten her. As if to make doubly sure that he wouldn't grab her hand again, she folded her arms. You know I can sense emotions, he said. Everyone's emotions, like a cloud of colors around them. Can't turn it off. It's just how I see the world. Victoria mentioned that. So you're an open book to me. I know you're scared. No, you're terrified, and that's why you're not talking. I just like that little moment where she pulls her hand away and she's like disgusted.
Yeah, and
um,
honestly, like you'll
I would
see
have been
that
like that.
mirrored on the other side, like done to her, where like she'll touch hands with somebody and they'll just be like horrified at the brief contact,
Yeah. Now that I've been talking about it a little bit, like there's definitely something about um like the
like
fact that
touch with her.
Amy, yeah, the fact that she has to touch people skin to skin, like she can't touch their scalps or whatever to be able to heal them. And then like there are like lots of little moments with her touching people or them touching her and just upsettiness.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we'll keep that in mind. Upcoming.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I just really wish we were in Gallant's head here and we could see what he's seeing about Amy. I think it would have just been like fun stylistically to kind of see that. But you know,
I agree. Well,
Amy, like,
we had
go ahead.
we had also talked about it. We hadn't written it specifically in the doc, but I think there's a chance that Wildbow wasn't ready for like the kind of undertaking that the actual Gallant chapter would be, where he's having to manage the emotion site of
Literally
all the
everyone's
characters for
emotions.
the whole time, and then like how
Yeah,
much of the detail do you give on that, like when they're changing, and
yeah,
he knows them all like much better than this like kind of odd um normal third person narration. um
yeah.
so it's just like so much more complicated and difficult of a chapter once you like go there.
Yeah, and he wouldn't want to like have to retcon anything, obviously, like if he threw something in there that like didn't match up with his whatever vision he has later on. Um I wanted to ask you what you think about like how insanely personal Amy is here with Gallant, because as far as we can tell, like they are not close. Like they don't seem to hang out. At all. Obviously. Even maybe around Victoria, but then she just like starts rattling off in such a like I don't know, like such a like personal way that kind
I
of weirds
think
me out.
So I think this is the first one-on-one conversation she's having since the bank robbery, which is like
Hmm.
very very recent.
Yeah, it was
And
like a couple hours ago, right?
yeah, yeah. So this is the first person she's talking to, and he's kind of asking her to open up, and then she just kind of breaks down, I feel like, and just um uh it's like once she starts, she can't stop herself kind of thing.
Mm.
That's how it felt to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, it's just kind of all spilling out.
Because the other thing is, once she starts her story, like she can't. Once she's past
She can't pull back,
here
really.
or here, I think once she's past here, there's no way she could stop before she had said like everything to self
Yeah.
justify. Because
Yeah.
about once you hit right, the I guess once you get here or whatever, like down to the part where she's talking about how she was going to leave somebody behind, then it's like completely just a death spiral and she's like trying to pull the plane up.
Yeah, she definitely, and I guess she did a similar self-justification monologue in Victoria's chapter.
Yeah,
So,
she
and
really
you
has
had
like a
mentioned that to me
roundabout
as well.
explanation and she can always like circle away from points you make at her.
Yeah. So we were gonna read kind of a big excerpt here. So Amy begins talking about how she never even wanted powers, but I got them anyways, and I got international attention over it. The healer, the girl who could cure cancer with a touch, make someone 10 years younger, regrow lost limbs. I'm forced to be a hero, burdened with this obligation. I couldn't live with myself if I didn't use this power. It's such an opportunity to save lives.
But
But at the same time, I can't hear everyone. Even if I go to the hospital every night for 2 or 3 hours at a time, there are thousands of other hospitals I can't visit, tens of millions of people who are terminally ill or living in a personal hell where they're paralyzed or in constant pain. These people don't deserve to face that, but I can't help them all. I can't help 1% of them if I put in 20 hours a day.
you have to focus on what you can do.
Sounds easier than it is. Do you understand what it means to cure some of these people? I feel like every second I take to myself is a second I've failed somehow. For 2 years, it's been this pressure. Lie in bed, awake at night, and I can't sleep, so I get up and I go to the hospital in the middle of the night, go to pediatrics, cure some kids, go to the ICU, spare some lives, and it's all just blending together. I can't even remember the last few people I saved. The last person I really remember, it was maybe a week ago. I was working on a kid. He was just a toddler, an immigrant from Cairo, I think. Ectopia cordis. That's when you're born with your heart outside your body. I was putting everything in the right place, giving him a chance at normal life.
What made him so memorable?
I resented him. He was lying there, fast asleep like an angel, and for a second I considered just leaving him. The doctors could have finished the job, but it would have been dangerous. He might have died if I left him on the table, the job half done. I hated him.
Gallant didn't say anything. Scowling, Panacea stared down at the ground.
No, I hated that he would have a normal life because I'd given up mine. I was scared that I might intentionally make a mistake, that I might let myself fuck up the procedure with the kid. I could have killed him or ruined his life, but it would have been eased the pressure. Sorry, it would have eased the pressure. Lowered expectations, you know? Maybe it would have lowered my own expectations for myself. I was just so tired. I was so exhausted. I actually considered for the briefest moment abandoning a child to suffer or die.
That sounds like more than just exhaustion.
Is this how it starts? Is this the point I start becoming like my father, whoever he was? Yay!
Yay!
I just like didn't want to summarize that conversation because, hard to. How do you
Yeah.
summarize that?
I
um,
Greg had said this before when I had made that mini fic for Danny, and I thought like when we read this, it sort of reminded me like he had said if I had had it prepared a little earlier, we could have recorded, and I'm realizing it's actually really easy based on when I had recorded that audiobook chapter to record some
huh.
basic lines. We could probably do that without much work.
Yeah, we could do that in the future.
So
Um, so in my opinion, Gallant did not do a good job in this back and forth. The that last line there, that sounds like more than just exhaustion. Like Gallant, that was a little bit fucked up, right?
I think he's trying to push back, but he has no idea what to say.
Yeah, I think he's like in shock, like he wasn't expecting whatever. He asked for this though.
Yeah. Well, he's seen Amy's emotions, but he like doesn't know her.
Yeah, he doesn't know her. He doesn't really get what's going on there. Yeah, so he tries to tell her that, everyone has the potential to become evil. Oh, and he tells her that she needs to take a break. So here's like another example of Amy not prioritizing herself, but in a
Mm-hmm.
way that is causing problems for other people.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, Amy says, "Oh, I don't think I can." And then Gallant asks what this has to do with what happened at the bank, which like I kind of had the same question. um, do you have anything you want to say about that?
Um. Well, I'm not sure how to talk about like what happened at the bank and like the tattletale secret without like really, you know what I mean? Just taking the lid off the.
Yeah.
Um.
So That's fine. She kind of starts like in response to him asking that, she like kind of starts roasting Gallant and lumping him in with Tattletale. Like, oh, I don't like people like you. You strip us naked of our masks that I've built. When he apologizes, she kind of pulls back on that. And then she says this. She threatened to talk about stuff worse than what I just told you, I guess. Threatened to tell me things I just didn't want to know. Said she'd use what she knew to ruin my relationship with Victoria and the rest of my family. Amy hugged herself. My sister's all I've got, the only person with no expectations, who knows me as a person. Carol never really wanted me. Mark is clinically depressed, so as nice as he is, he's too focused on himself to really be a dad. My aunt and uncle are sweet, but they've got their own problems. So it's just me and Victoria. Has been from the beginning. That smug little monster threatened to tear my sister and I apart, using yet another thing I didn't want, another thing I had no control over. So I guess I think that's her referencing the secret there, the
Hmm. Yeah,
something that she doesn't want and she doesn't have control over.
yeah. I think I misunderstood the question when I was thinking about this initially, but um, I think you are right that like, and he's right that obviously this has to do with like the stuff that happened at the bank. But I mean, I guess that connection's just like pretty like was so
It's
there.
pretty
I didn't
weak.
even think about it.
Yeah.
It's just
It's just
surface level.
she's just like, "Oh, I'm a bad person." So she gives an example of her being a bad person. She definitely has like a schema about that, which I was thinking that we should start, if you're interested, we could start like kind of bringing up like schemas from like the schema psychological theory in reference to each of the capes, because they are like so relevant here and like how they affect their powers and everything.
Yeah,
And like hers is definitely like I am deeply flawed in some way, which is one of the big ones.
yeah. I definitely am interested in that, like for sure.
Yeah.
So
Okay, that'll be fun. Um So, yeah, she doesn't really explain how it's related with that. She's just going off. She's just thinking about all the ways she sucks, I think. Um,
I think yeah, I think she's in an emotional spiral, and she's really like doesn't know how to channel what she's feeling or and like isn't in tune with herself or accepting of herself to the point where she can like handle this situation, you know what I mean?
yeah, and she seems to think that it is something she's not like fully cognizant of. You know what I mean? She
Mhm.
said she said that Tattletale threatened to tell me things I just don't want to know, which is like in a really interesting way to put it, because it
Mhm.
was a secret about her. It's not about her dad, but she thinks it's something that she like doesn't have a full grasp of either.
Yeah.
Uh, so Gallant seems a little shook by what she just said there, though, and he seems to make a connection. And he asks, "Does this have anything to do with the rather strong feelings you have towards me?" Panacea went still. um, and then she
I
like,
like how you did like whether on purpose or not like a different background color for this and then it's just like Panacea went still by itself.
no, it's on accident, but it's still fine. Um, Yeah, so Panacea like tries to leave and Gallant's like, "Oh, my door's always open if you want to talk." And Amy is just like, "I just make Victoria happy." But apparently this conversation did some good for her, because they head back to the room and she is ready to talk about what she learned about Tattletale, and she starts filling out the whiteboard.
With the
So
fact that
that
she
is
went to the whiteboard like just immediately next, I thought this would be the perfect time to bring up the clock blocker moment. Clock blocker groaned as he tenderly touched the welts around his nose and mouth. Nightmares with lots of spiders.
she's like, all right, Gallon is healed. Let's move on, everyone. There's like Aegis has like a hole in him still, and Clockblockers like,
And even on the low end of things, like Like, this is a little girl who
Vista
got
got
beat
punched
up
in
by
the
like a
face.
huge dude. Like,
He's like he's like 6'5",
he's
like
just like
200 pounds.
he's like big enough to credibly like darkness shape himself into looking like a guy who
Like
can
a
super
actual
bulk himself with superpowers.
yeah. Oh my god.
And then who else? Kid Win fell to
Kidwin got
concrete,
tasered.
like, and got tasered. Like, I think the fall would probably be like terrible. And I think the only reason he's like, I thought to myself about, because I went back and forth about this in my head while I was like pre-thinking about the chapter. I was like, how does he walk around like normal after falling so far to the pavement? Then I was like,
I
I
don't
guess he's fine. And then I was like, oh, Amy heals him. And then I was like, wait, no, but it happens before Amy heals him.
Yeah, I think maybe he has some like shock receptors or something in his suit
I would
because
believe that his
he
armor is actually good because I mean, like,
yeah, and he does fly around on his thing primarily. So like he probably would take that into consideration that he might fall.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. But it is still
Um
just like, Jesus.
yeah. It was a good chapter. I'm sorry for talking so much. I feel like we talk more shit about well, I mean I mean me. I talk shit about the chapters, but like I obviously really liked it. I think I have the opposite problem that uh Scott and um
Matt.
Matt and Scott have because they compliment it, compliment it, compliment it, and then they're like, "Oh shoot, let me think of something critical." But like critical is like my basis.
Well, the thing
So
is, sometimes I feel like I'm not pulling out enough, like, criticism of it because I do have some criticisms, but I just
yeah,
don't want it to feel to the audience like I have some really negative view or
yeah,
perception
or
of it.
like
Because, like,
this
I
is a
fucking
critique.
love
It's
this
not really
chapter.
yeah, and it's not like a this isn't like a critique that you're doing. It's more of like an analysis and commentary kind of thing. So
Yeah, yeah,
it makes
that's true
sense.
as well. And like
Uh,
overall, like I'm very satisfied with the level of writing given that I know that it just improves throughout the book.
yeah, me too.
So,
I did love this chapter, and I don't know. I love this interaction between Amy. I like to see all the little character moments between all the besties. You know,
mhm, mhm.
get
Definitely.
Kid Win gets to have a friend for once.
Yeah, I like that. I like that there's like
Someone like
different
Kid
friend
Win.
pairings and like they're all like low-key friends, but there's the obvious like gravitational like forces.
Hmm.
And like, browbeats news, so they don't really know him. So it's just like all the
Yeah,
stuff
and they're
just
trying
makes
to like
sense.
yeah, it's pretty good.
Um, so, do we want to move on to our character section here?
Yeah, go for it.
So, we're gonna talk about everyone who is in these chapters a little bit. Aegis, one of the only ones we know their name at this point is Carlos. We don't know much about this guy, but he seems pretty cool to me. I think the thing he does, reaching inside himself to show he's fine, is a pretty funny moment, and um, yeah, it seems like what you were saying during the summary, where it seems like he wants to lighten the mood and like keep kind of the same thing that Gallant does while they're doing the debrief, where like he's
Yeah.
trying to keep the spirits up so they're all still in in fighting shape.
Yeah, it's funny because Gallant, Aegis, and Clockblocker are all like kind of doing the same thing, but in different ways. Like Clockblocker's like he's like naturally comedy relief. I don't think he's actually trying to make people feel better, but I think he's trying to make himself feel better sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, and then like Aegis jokes around, seemingly to try to make other people feel better, and then uh Gallant wants everyone to be happy because he has to look at it. It's probably gross when it's when they're all sad and depressed.
Well, also the thing is that they all have similar like aims, but yeah, their approaches are like very different even between Aegis and Clock Blocker. I think like the kinds of
Uh-huh.
jokes they're doing are like super apart. Also
Yeah.
like just showing his resilience, I feel like is part of what like Carlos is doing is when
Hmm.
he says like I'll live and like stuff like that where he's like saying everything very confidently, like he
Hmm.
is able to boost the morale of the team just by being a stable connection for them.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. They describe him physically more than anyone else. I think they said he's Puerto Rican. Is that right?
Hmm.
Um, he's
One of the
Hispanic.
reasons I kind of
Got long
initially
hair.
thought it was his chapter is because they described him more and actually say his name.
And they name him, yeah.
So I thought it was just gonna follow him, and then he walks off screen, and it's like, oh,
You're like,
okay.
oh, okay. Bye, Aegis. And then my one of my favorite non-parahumans, Pago.
Hmm.
Um, you can read what you wrote here.
Well, I wrote right off the bat, oh man, I don't even know where to start. I think Pago is probably as important of a character as Danny, and I think she might even get more overall screen time. I looked at the amount of chapters they're in, and Pago's in like significantly less total chapters. But when she's on screen, she like dominates the scene usually. Like there are only a couple scenes she's in where she's a background character.
Yeah, she's like, I don't know. There's something about her. Just her vibes are she's got like a weird relationship with parahumans. It's very interesting. She like cares very much about their image, but seemingly r- does not respect them. So,
Yeah. I also think that it's like it's what you were saying before when we were working on the doc, like where it's this really intricate sort of caring about the individual people that she's supposed to wrangle, and
mhm.
like having this like negative view of parahumans overall, I think, and like um managing them, and it's like all this stuff going on at once.
Yeah, and I think you described it like she sees them like a lost cause. I guess I would kind of maybe you could relate it to somebody I can definitely like think of like doctors and nurses who give this kind of vibe, like somebody who works with like dying patients, where they can be like very harsh and mean, but like you know that they're sad like
Right.
about the situation. You know what I mean?
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
It kind of comes off to me um like I guess a slightly different version of Lost Cause. I kind of thought of it like Doomed, like to her the best life they'll ever get is like Arms Master's life, and that's
Yeah.
terrible.
And
Um
that's terrible. None of us want to be arms man.
yeah, exactly. And she is, as you say here, a total girl boss.
She is. She's a total girl boss. She's got her shit together. Um, I don't know if you want to mention that, like, Pago, she is kind of like parahuman adjacent,
Oh yeah,
uh,
okay. I wasn't sure if we
in
were
the
gonna talk
same
about
way.
that now, but I
Yeah, I think
agree.
we can talk about it.
So
Because, like, we've talked about how Danny has parahuman brain. Like, Pago could totally be a parahuman.
hmm, if she had a Corona Palencia, she definitely would have a power.
Yeah.
I mean, she might have even like burned out and died already, to be honest.
Yeah.
Um, but
What kind of power do you think? Like a thinker kind of
well,
feel?
okay. So it feels like she does have a low level like thinker power like now, but I'm trying to think if she got a power, I think that it would be, and I don't know how this would integrate with her power or with her mindset exactly, but I think that the kind of power she would get is maybe a like brute mover combination, because she really
Okay.
is in like a ridiculous amount of physical danger where she's getting like her legs get torn up.
Yeah. She's got problems.
Yeah. So I thought that maybe that could like, because some people like when you think about Purity, her power directly saved her life.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah, it seems like a lot of like
physical triggers.
physical yeah, physical triggers are gonna be in those kind of situations where your life was at stake.
Yeah. Even thinking about it, like Lady Photon too.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, but yeah, let's move on to Gallant, and I'll let you take it away.
Okay. We talked about this a billion times. I wish that we had been able to see from Gallant's point of view, we would have been able to see the other characters. And you mentioned that it would have been like a writing cheat code to let Wildbow really fill in the blanks. It's kind of like if we had a chapter from Tattletale's point of view, like, ugh, not to compare them again,
Yeah.
but that you can he can really just add anything that he really wanted there. He
Sorry,
could have
Vale.
been old Eighth Master. Vale. Good one. They would have been a cute couple, huh? To go Legs Master and Arms Master.
I think she's only a little older than him, so
Yeah, I think she's around his age. And she oh, okay, sorry.
we'll stop
She's
now before you talk about.
well, let's stop now before I start talking about Arms Master. Um, yeah, so Gallant's also he tries to make a noble sacrifice and is thoroughly rebuked. That seems to be kind of his thing, probably why he named himself Gallant. He kind of thinks of himself as someone who makes noble sacrifices, the classic hero type.
Hmm.
Um, and then he did the opposite of that when he insisted on being healed first when he knew he did not have any injuries.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Oh,
what I would say is if Wildbow wrote this chapter in the, like, style of a Ward chapter, and it was from the perspective of Gallant, you would have, what you would do is you'd, like, have her heal Clock Blocker first, and have the healings be in the individual, and, like, you could have the implied conversation of, like, Clock Blocker kind of, consoling her in some ways, but not having gotten her, like, spill mode like reaction, and then
yeah.
maybe like it builds up to him kind of pushing while looking at her emotions, and then you can also get like way more out of the debrief. Like you can make that scene with the with Arms Master, Miss Militia, and it'd be like everybody but Clock Blocker and Amy, and I think that that scene could like has a lot of meat, and then yeah, I'm just thinking of ways he could revamp it because like he has talked about wanting to rewrite like and edit some chapters and stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is one of the big ones.
yeah, and like the Victoria chapter, honestly, because she's such an important character that I feel like it should have a little more.
Yeah. He's a little more meat.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and then I commented that I feel like he wants to elicit some kind of emotional reaction from people, and we talked about that a lot with Vale. So yeah, I don't want to say that in a bad way. I was hesitant to even say it at all because
Well,
it
it's
could sound
difficult
like
because
I'm accusing
there's a
him.
lot of things that teenagers do that I think is the thing that makes it innocent is that they like legitimately have no idea of the negative effects or even like quite what they're doing. They're just
Yeah.
like reacting, and like being a teenager is learning about like more complex social situations and like how
Uh-uh.
to interact with people in a way that won't like hurt everybody's feelings.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. We can talk about Glory Girl.
Glory girl.
Glory
um
Girl. Glory
she
Hole.
she's dating Gallant. um you and I had sort of interpreted this different, but I thought it was interesting, the way you think that Glory Girl was upset at her invincibility being challenged, and I think that that's a really yeah, that's a really cool way to look at it. I had always thought about it as her like kind of in a lot of ways being like weak because she was pampered by her power, because like most of the time she doesn't take bad injuries.
Uh-huh.
She is like um not able to deal with it, but like the way that you present it actually makes more sense to me, because like when she gets hurt through her shield, she actually usually takes it pretty well. um uh but like the like later on, I mean, but the idea that it was like an emotional response, as well as a physical pain thing that caused the lasting damage, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I think that it's like um something has been set in motion in both of their.
Yeah, like also dealing with like the weirdness of the like she doesn't even know if there's a second secret. She thinks like maybe it's a bluff, but she also like is like what was so big a deal that Amy flipped out like
That
that?
Amy, yeah, Amy flipped out and like basically risked getting her throat slashed.
Yeah, cuz if Taylor hadn't
um,
intentionally pulled away, like the way it's phrased sounds like she would have just like gouged herself.
I kind of give big kudos to Victoria for not. She not only doesn't fall for it in the moment, but I don't remember her like being upset about the secret again in the future, right? Like at least not outwardly. Like she keeps it to herself and like doesn't bother Amy about it. You'll have to remind me if that's accurate or not. But like
I'll
she's just
have to
kind of like
reread to be sure, but I think you're right where
she's
they
just kind of like,
mostly
well, I know that there's something, but like I trust Amy and like if she doesn't want me to know, then I trust that that's for the best. And like I don't know, that's just like really like as much as we're talking about teenagers and like Victoria obviously has other issues. We noted she has like self-control issues that comes off as like really immature or whatever, but like that's like a I would never be able to handle that.
well, the other thing about like I'll just jump into Vale's thing. To be fair, I think almost every human being would be horrified at the idea of where secrets revealed. Yeah, I mean probably.
Yeah.
But from Victoria's side, like the way that I view her current like lack of control is that she like much like Clockblocker later on feels like she's fighting like endlessly and getting no results and things in the city are getting worse and she feels how to say uh
Just so like kind of desperate and
yeah.
like
Yeah. And she's never and then like on top of that, in tandem with being like desperate to like make a difference, she also feels like she's well, maybe not consciously. She's never dealt with her issues with her parents, which are the actual reason she has powers, not because she got pushed over at a basketball game.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so like that has made all this resentment, so yeah, then she has these self-control issues, so it's like one thing leads to another, and she always has that underlying problem with her parents that she hasn't dealt with.
Yeah.
And then we brought this up earlier, but Amy lies about Victoria's power to the wards, even though they're ostensibly like direct allies. And New Wave is theoretically transparent, but they're still obfuscating the details of Victoria's power, which honestly could get her hurt in a um, combat situation if her allies think that she,
They think she's invincible. Yeah.
because that's just not how her power works. Like, if they hit her with a double hit thinking like, oh, I can do this too, like, I don't know, move her across the battlefield or like whatever fucking cause, then they might just splatter her.
Yeah, just fucking shoot her twice and oof. It would have been the end.
Yeah.
Vale says Glory Girl is what happens when there's not a Pico type in charge to an extent. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with you, Vale, but I'll think about it. I think there are far, far better ways to run the wards than how Pago does, but someone to be in charge is incredibly important. You know who I think should be in charge?
Who?
Uh, Skitter.
Well,
Our new our new character.
our new character. I was gonna put this out there. I really do think that Carol, like Carol is such a dance mom that like
Hmm.
she has a Pigo type in charge of her life, and like that's part of
Uh,
the problem for Victoria.
yeah, that's true. Carol's kind of like a Pico. Ooh.
Because it's like all image all the time, like perfect poise, don't make mistakes. Like she's got like the kind of cruel lesson that Pigot would do, where it like is something that is painful to leave a lasting reminder. Like that's the kind of thing that Carol does to Victoria her whole life. So yeah,
Carol. I can't wait to learn more about her in in Ward.
Yeah,
Uh, uh, on
agreed.
to Kid Win, our favorite character, our favorite parahuman.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, Kidwin was being a dingus, reckless. He did not think through bringing the alternator cannon to the bank. Maybe he thought through, but his risk analysis was a little bit different than
Well, his
Pago's.
dyscalculia made it hard for him to calculate the figures.
Yeah, that might
I'll
be
do
it.
$100 in damage. We're sold.
Yeah, oh no, Kidwin. Don't let Kidwin do math. He wasn't even in the second half of the chapter because Pigot went to reprimand him. You know, after he was just tased, he's like literally like in pain and should probably be recovering. Oh, sad face. And then it seems like he and Aegis are kind of buds. William wrote that he's kind of a mentor. I kind of saw
Well, it
like a
looks like it
very
seems like he looks
nice
up to
older
Aegis
brother.
and like,
Yeah,
cause
and
like
like Aegis tries to protect Kidwin to an extent.
I think there's like an age gap. I think it's literally like a 15, 18 age gap or something like that,
Yeah.
where he's about to turn, or maybe 15, 17, and he's about to
Yeah,
turn
he's
18.
about to turn
Yeah,
18 in like a couple months.
so you've met all sorts of brother pairs where they're 2 years apart. It seems like that kind of relationship.
Yeah, definitely. Not a lot about Kidwin because he was not with us.
Yeah, well, I guess we could talk more about how like Pigot is like threatening to uh
Put him in jail.
yeah, yeah, and like all the fines and
Kidwin's
stuff.
like knows he would not do well in prison.
Yeah, he'd be
You
kid
can't name
losing there.
yourself Kidwin and then go to jail.
Yeah, not great.
Fair.
Greg made me laugh with full on. The risk I took was calculated, but man, I'm bad at math.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah. Oh, kid win.
Kidwin CPA. What does that mean?
Um.
Phil, you're too smart for us. We don't get your reference.
Yeah, we dumb. Um.
Yeah, we did.
But we are open to hearing what it means. Clock blocker.
Mm. Clockblocker was he's like sort of comedy relief, but he's funny in a different way than like Aegis was goofing around. Um he I in my opinion, he was not bothered like nearly enough bothered by what happened to him, by what Taylor did to him.
Yeah.
Um he maybe he just kind of has like I don't know, like a doled out reaction like Regent style, but
He doesn't
we don't
seem
see
to.
that later
I
on.
don't think he does.
So I don't know, maybe Wildbow did not think about how horrible the thing Taylor did to him was.
Yeah, it just seems like he says he'll have nightmares, but like you said, big underreaction. It seems like
I think that I would be in so much shock and like I don't think that he should be acting like himself at this moment. You know what I mean?
I think as a teen I definitely could have pulled it together because like the kind of mindset I had was like a very like shrug off the pain like
Mm.
mindset, and I would be able to move past stuff that was like horrible. Um and like now I just like express myself more.
Oh. Well, I don't know. I don't know if I'd be able to pull this off. You and Clockblocker are in a different league. I think I forgot to ask, but I wasn't exactly sure what the seniority situation is. Is it literally who the oldest member is, or is it whoever has been with the wards the longest
Well, it's got to be
to be
oldest
the leader?
member, I think,
Okay,
because like
because
I
otherwise
don't
Vista would
I don't
be
know how the rank
leader in
system
like a year.
works, but like yeah, Vista is has been a ward for longer than Kidwin, for example.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, he's next up to. That seems like a bad system to me, but it's fine. He's next up to be the leader. And he doesn't seem super eager for it. He doesn't mind that. In fact, he encourages Gallant to take point when Gallant asks permission, even though he was like obviously planning on it anyways.
Yeah. I felt like there was something like this is a possible alternate interpretation that I only thought of while I was listening to the audiobook
Uh-huh.
just now, like earlier. Um, but I felt like there could be something to Clock Blocker feeling obligated to have that position, but not feeling like the way he refers to it felt like maybe he felt like he didn't have enough time left because he says only the summer and then I'll graduate as well. Um, and they don't
Yeah.
graduate based on when they turn 18, really. They graduate on like a schedule that kind of
Kind of like a
like
school schedule.
it kind of half lines up. Well, it's supposed to be like the public perception is supposed to be that it's when they turn 18, I think. But
Uh-huh.
then it's known as like an open secret that they shuffle it around a bit. So like it's when they PR want you to become a protectorate member. Like that's the actual like thing is when you're close enough to 18 on one side or the other and
Huh.
they can use the PR because like protectorate's supposed to be more responsible, supposed to like have a different adult image and supposed to go to the real fights. So there's like more to it than just time. They like the protectorate would have thought through this is the time period in which we want him to become a protectorate member.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
there is more that goes into it. So I feel like he might feel as though the timing was bad, that he's only the leader of the wards for 3 months or 2.5 months or whatever before
Hmm.
he has to become a fledged protectorate member. Because
Gotcha.
I got the impression he might be like 16, 17, not actually turning 18 at the end of the summer, like
Yeah, I
closer
was
to
really
Taylor's
like,
age.
yeah, I thought he was more Taylor's age, and when I read that, I was like, he can't be like 17 right now. That doesn't sound right.
I think he's like 16 and that they're just going to shoot him up like a year early because he's been on the team for a long time. He's really good in a
Hmm.
fight. Like,
Yeah, they want him like more involved in everything.
yeah. Cuz like
Higher
that's
risk.
another thing. Like we got to remember that this is like um this is like an army structure where
Hmm.
they have some rules over them like what they can and can't do, but like they are trying to develop the best like group of teams to keep fighting these like really really dangerous like threats, whether they be like supervillains or like whatever.
Hmm.
So like they view the capes as like assets, you know.
Yeah, that tracks. And you know what? We gotta get him in there before he dies. So, Vale said, if a single spider jumped on my hand, I'd tap out of the fight. Yeah, he should have tapped out a
Yeah,
lot
and then
earlier.
the CPA was certified public accountant.
Yeah, that
Um
that tracks.
but that reminds me of a time when I was driving to Washington, and in the middle of the night, a spider dropped down from the ceiling of my car onto my hand, like this pure white spider, and I
Oh
just
my God.
casually brush it off with my other hand onto the seat. Just don't even look at where it goes. Like, nope, not gonna let this throw me off the side of this cliff. And like a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
just
people,
you
sorry,
just gotta ignore it.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
just Whenever I see a spider, I just look the other way and I'm like, no, I didn't.
Yeah, I was gonna say like a lot of people told me they would have just driven off the road, and I was like, nope, you just gotta like what's that don't feel conceal or whatever.
Conceal, don't feel.
Oh yeah,
Don't let it
conceal don't
show.
feel. Yeah,
Oh
it's
my
that but
God.
spiders.
Speaking of conceal, don't feel, let's talk about Shadow Stalker.
Exactly.
God, I hate Shadow Stalker. I'm glad we didn't have to meet her today.
Yeah.
Um,
Aegis just mentions her and how she's such a fucking loose cannon. They can't even like let her be in the vicinity of the fight. So.
yeah, she's insane. And they described Shadow Stalker before as like going too far, injuring some baddie, and that's why she's on. So she's like on parole essentially. With
Hmm.
the protectorate. And then there's Browbeat. And he This was what he didn't do a lot. This was one of his first fights, and he did a terrible job, in fact.
The fact that
He
two of
should have
his fights
just
have been against Regent are like such a shame because he has, in my mind, a really cool power set, but like Regent is a fucking hard counter. He can't move
yeah.
around the battlefield and he needs to be able to run around and punch.
Yeah, he was just in the darkness, and then I think maybe like every time he was about to get out, Regent just kind of knocked him down or something.
Exactly.
Um, Vale said Shadowstalker is one of the most irredeemable characters in the story for me. Just a fundamentally horrible person. Yeah, we don't. I I am like into a lot of like controversial characters. In fact, I'm worried that people will start getting mad at me. Um, but yeah, nobody likes Shadowstalker.
Yeah.
Just just the worst. I also got the impression that Browbeat's a little bit dumb because he seemingly I don't know, he should have figured out something during the fight and then like he was like, "Yeah, let's name her Worm."
Yeah.
And like couldn't contribute to the rest of the conversation because he didn't have like any one-on-ones with them. It seems like you can expand on a lot of things people are saying, you
I
know.
also feel like he should have had something to say because he's literally fought Regent
He's fought them before.
and Bitch before, yeah.
Yeah, but he didn't. So he's just a little bit slow to the party.
He's browbeat, not brow brain. Thank you, Greg. Then yeah, Vista. So we know a few things about Vista. She has a huge crush on Gallant and is young.
She's a little girl.
Yep.
Yeah, she probably needs to back off on Gallant. He's like 5 years older than I guess he's 4 years older than her, huh?
I think he's 17.
And she
I
is
think yeah,
13.
I think he's four or let
I
me
got
think.
the sense that she recently turned 13 because I think that the Undersiders call her 12 originally.
Yes, I think
So,
that they had the wrong age for her on from the outside. Um, when she joins the wards, she's 10 and 11 months.
oh, poor kid.
Yeah.
Little baby. Well, I'll try not to be mean to Vista right now. I
Don't
like
be mean
Vista,
to
but
her later. Oh no.
I like Vista, but it's funny to knock on her because they're so much like cooler little girls.
It's just funny because
Like
like from the start when you were reading it, you were like totally shit talking Vista, and I'm like,
I
but I
know
like
because
Vista.
because she's just such a beta.
Yeah.
It's okay though. 2 + 4 × 5 says either that or she had a birthday right before the story says she's 13. Yeah, it was actually her birthday today, the day of the bank robbery.
Yeah,
So
Gru's birthday present was a swift punch to the
was a
stomach.
swift a knuckle sandwich, as they say.
Eat one of these Sammys.
Here you go. I made this for you. Okay. You can talk about arms, man.
I think I'm gonna let you do the honors.
The thing we learned about Arms Master today is that he's impatient.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was trying to pressure uh
The sooner the
freaking
better, Amy.
Amy. Yeah, he's like, we need this now. But it was okay because he can be easily reined in by Miss Militia's woman energy.
Did you see the thing that Vale just said?
Disliking Vista is Shadow Stalker's secondary power. Well, it's my primary power, okay? Um, yeah, and then we wrote that he seems to be on the decline since meeting Taylor. Taylor seems to do that to a lot of people. I would say she has set Arms Master on the decline, and then she and Tattletale collectively set Amy and Victoria on the decline.
Yeah.
Um,
I also think there's like multiple interpretations. Some people think that Arms Master was just like this irascible asshole boss, but I really don't get that impression. Like I feel like he passive aggressive to people, but like that he was keeping up a good facade because that's like part of the whole point is he wants to be well liked and he wants to be a respected hero and to have like this prestige. So like
mhm.
he couldn't just be
He
like
couldn't just
a
be an
dick.
asshole.
Like that's just not
And he's
realistic.
like, yeah, he's got the same problem I have too, where he has social awkwardness that makes people think that they're really mean.
Yeah.
So, except he is actually mean when you get to know him.
See, when I got to know you, you were much nicer.
Yeah.
I mean, because of how mean you seemed.
Um, Vale, oh, you're so rude. Vale said, in retrospect, the introduction of Miss Militia as flirty feels a bit weird. I never noticed it before. I just thought it was silly. Like, I think that she's just like an adult, like an attractive young
Yeah,
adult woman.
she's just like a charming lady.
Yeah, she's like a charming lady, and so they're all just like, "Oh, Miss Militia," and she's like nice, which like a lot of like adult parahumans are not, because like if you've lived that long, how nice can you really be?
Yeah, like not that any of these people live in Georgia, but like if they live near Scenario, she's like the head of the Georgia Capes, and she's just um, like Pig O, but as an actual cape, just
Yeah,
like completely unyielding.
and think about the other two adults in charge of them are Arms Master and Pago, who are both like very abrasive, and not the best at empathy. So like, yeah, I just think it's like, oh, you know.
Yeah, there's a lot of
It's
Arms
not.
Master and Pig O overlap, which shows the like contrast between her and both of the other two. You know?
Yeah, I think so. Miss Militia. And I love when we'll see later that like Taylor sees this same thing in Miss Militia. And she does like approach her at one point and is like, "Hey, Miss Militia,
Well,
help
she
me out." And
keeps
Miss
orbiting
Militia's like,
back in like over and over
"Yeah,
again.
yeah." She's like always like trying to latch on. Like Miss Militia, there's just something about her
Yeah.
that people like, that they like trust her and they want to work with her. Um, Miss Militia's character, she was able to temper Arms Master's shitty attitude. I didn't
Yeah.
write that one.
I wrote
Uh,
tempering Arms Master shitty attitude.
she's
Um
also she's also a lovely lady, and we talked about this before. I just like how her kind of like she's kind of got a feminine demeanor, and she's not just one of those like quote unquote strong female characters that's just a man like reskinned uh as a woman,
mm,
because she could have easily been that with like her power and the way that she kind of presents herself.
yeah, she's like emotionally thoughtful and she is conscious of image and like a lot of things, and like not that men can't be those things, but those are like in American society or whatever considered to be like feminine traits, I think.
Yeah. And maybe she's actually which I don't think they mention it here, but she's like actually not from America.
Yeah, she's an immigrant from
Yeah.
I think Turkey, and she came to the States as I
As a
think
little
like
gal.
a tween or a younger teen, because it was like a little bit before, or no, actually maybe it was
I
just
thought
as
it
the
was
Wards team
right
was
after her
forming.
trigger.
No, I think it took her a while to come to the States. We'll figure it out when we
Okay.
get there, but she is definitely from elsewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, Vale said almost all of Wildbow's characters feel genuine. Vale, I'm curious in who you think does not feel genuine. I would love to hear that.
Yeah.
You can talk about Amy.
um So she was in the original wards, yeah. So that tween teen age range. So I think if she came over right before the wards, then I think she was a little older, like 15 or something like that. 'Cause she's
Mm.
just like whatever age Chevalier is. I think they're the same age.
Yeah, yeah. I think I think I remember her being like 14 or 15.
Yeah. Um. Oh yeah, yeah. We were on Amy, and I'm gonna let you take it away.
Fine, fine. Amy feels some type of way about Gallant. We know that they're strong feelings. Um, we know how she reacted upon his touch.
Yeah.
That's
Big
kind of what we
no.
know. Yeah, it was like a, ah, you burned me kind of thing. Um, talk about Amy, so much to say. I just love Amy so much.
I wrote
I
that
like
because
that
we
she
didn't have any notes. I just knew that
I
you could talk
know.
about her regardless.
I love that she came in like shy. Like she was like, "Hey guys, I just wanted to thank you." And then she gets like annoyed that Gallant I think maybe it was just like a poor regulation of emotion, so she's like already feeling like somewhat embarrassed or something. Like there's like a reason that she's shy. I don't think that's like she's worked with these people before, right?
Yeah,
Something.
like she knows them, but she doesn't know Browbeat, and like she probably has like never had a good like she hasn't interacted with them the same way that Victoria has probably, where like Victoria's close with them and dating Gallant, but it feels like Amy has just been like, I don't want to be here, and like
Yeah,
hiding in
she's
the
like, "Oh, I
corner.
just want to leave." Yeah, so she comes in and then she's like taken aback by the things that Gallant does, and then she just like goes off. Um, so Amy it doesn't seem like she has a very good gauge of um not like boundaries. I guess I'm gonna call it like self-control. Like she doesn't know how to act around specific people and like what like
Well, she has really
personal
bad
how
boundary issues
personal.
too, though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She has boundary issues. She doesn't know how personal she should be acting in like a given situation, it seems
Hmm.
like. Because she kind of flips back and forth in an interesting way. And then we talked about I think that her like thing with the physical touch is something we should keep our eyes on, and it definitely correlates with her power because it's based around that. Bill
Hmm.
said Oh, Vale didn't like Bakura? Oh my god. My first impression of Bakura, for example, came across as less genuine. I like her more on rereads, but initially when she decided to contract Uber and Leet, then make a surprise appearance, then insane. I I literally like am obsessed with how Bakura introducing herself.
I used to
um
think that those chapters were kind of like not as good. I think I found them a little the tone whiplash a little off-putting the very first time I read those
mhm.
ones. So
Yeah, because they're so goofy and then like super high stakes.
yeah, but I definitely appreciate what they're doing there. It's like Vale said, where it's kind of just a first impressions thing, but I
Yeah, and Vale, that tracks because like Bakura is diagnosed by Tattletale as a like somebody with narcissistic personality disorder, and like that's obviously like not a lot of people have interacted with people with narcissistic personality disorder, so like that might be what
yeah,
like you're seeing there.
and there's like multiple layers too because like literally she is acting up any genuine craziness. She's intentionally acting it up to like scare people into thinking she's like such a wild card they just can't even be around her.
Yeah.
So,
We won't get distracted by Bakura anymore
yeah,
though.
sorry.
That was a good answer. Thank you, Vale. Um Yeah, okay. And then the thing we were going to mention as well is there's the misdirection, not even misdirection, but straight up lie about Glory Girl's power. But then there's also a misdirection about Amy's power. Like she has a very like scary power that like people might be disturbed by or scared of her or whatever, but it's all marketed as a healer. Nobody's worried about like what she might do to them, you know what I mean? Like it seems like she just goes to the hospital and like wanders around and finds people to heal, and like that's totally accepted by them because they're not concerned with her making any change, like doing anything evil, because I think that they have an understanding that she is a healer. I don't think they understand like the full scope of her power.
Yeah, they don't know that she's like a biology manipulator. They think her power is like the nebulous concept of healing, which like
Yeah.
part of what this book does for the most part is it takes nebulous concept powers and goes like, how would that work mechanically? Like, not how do we get this
Mhm.
to work scientifically, but like, what does it mean to have a power that's healing? Like, how would it know how to put somebody back together?
Yeah. Um I love that. And then oh, I was gonna mention something else. Shoot. Um, scary power. Oh, and then I guess we didn't mention it before, but like we saw her this. arc. Like the first time her actually using her power, not as a healer, and that was when she fucked up Taylor's bugs. And I thought that was notable because she was competent in it without even like needing to practice or try really.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, she's a natural.
yeah, she's just like naturally, she doesn't need to practice her power to be able to do it, which does call into question like her thing about like Victoria being like, you need to practice on brains or whatever, because we're gonna get to a point where you have to, and you're not gonna be able to do it. But like, obviously, she doesn't need to.
It's yeah, it's hard. Like I don't think that she needs to practice to do stuff, but she probably hasn't communicated that to Victoria. It seems
Yeah,
as though like her outward communications are more like either like quiet and infrequent or like rambly and confusing, and like the
yeah,
arguments she has with Victoria are always like winding and winding, and like they go to different places, and it's like very hard to follow like why she's choosing to say what particular things.
yeah. Oh, Amy.
Yeah,
Um,
but
well, I don't think I have anything else about her.
okay, we could move on to this, which means that I will go ahead and
Yeah, you guys will get to see the great thing that I made.
do. Can I zoom in? Oh wait, I remember how to do it. I zoom in over here. I'm just gonna show one whiteboard then the other. Ooh.
Okay.
Okay. So this is the whiteboard that
Yeah,
Victoria made.
Gallant.
Gallant made.
No, Gallant made the whiteboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you want to read through these?
Sure. So they wrote down some of Gru's stuff, that it's not just darkness, it's the sensory deprivation, and it's kind of like oily, inky. They talked about how it gives resistance and stuff. He can create and banish, which I don't know what that. He can kind of just create an unlimited amount of darkness,
Yeah,
and
we never
banish
hear
an
about a
unlimited.
limit. It's just like how Taylor's power
Yeah, Taylor doesn't have a limit.
Taylor can endlessly control bugs and has like even when she does the like drive around the city later in the story, like she never hits an upper limit. So,
Yeah. And then the darkness seems to linger when it's out of range, which they saw when they were, just he was just throwing the darkness everywhere, like down the streets as they ran through them. And then it just like kind of slowly cleared out, right? Like fanned away.
mhm.
Uh, and then he has kind of a deep voice,
It's weird
which is
because yeah, deep sexy voice.
his sexy voice.
I was gonna say
Which,
just as a separate side thing before I forget, that some wind can knock away his power, but most can't, and that's really interesting.
yeah. Hmm.
But anyway,
And then his power messes with Shadowstalker's power, and then in parentheses, like she has a breaker power, so maybe that's relevant. Uh, then Tattletale's board, obviously blank because Panacea hasn't showed up yet. And then Hellhound has no control over the doggos. They're actually trained with commands and whistles, and then they're unsure if like she can, they're controlled with gestures or anything. And then the dogs can navigate okay through Gru's darkness, and they have those wonderful prehensile tails.
only Aegis remembers prehensile tails.
Yeah, exactly. He probably remembers them well. I didn't know even what to write on Regent's board because they didn't talk about it in the chapter. But he made him super twitchy, so I wrote that down. And his power worked in Gru's darkness, so now they know that he does not need to see people to use their power on them.
Hmm.
Which is like not the case for, all other, like some people have to see a specific person
Yeah, a
to
lot
like
of
use
people
their
need
power.
to like either see or even the other person has to perceive them.
Yeah,
So like
there's
the vectors of powers are really important, and the fact that his is just he needs to be within range, and I think he can't do it through like a lot of stuff, but that's never made super clear. Um,
Yeah, it's kind of vague, and I think it's partly because it like depends on how much effort he's putting into it. It like just puts more strain on him when
yeah,
there's like other things getting in the way. And then he had a taser in his stick, which which Kidwin got to find out.
yeah.
And then we got our possible names for Taylor: Maggot, Worm,
Worm.
Pestilence, and then finally Skitter. What a good name. It's funny that Gallant came up with it, because, like, okay, Gallant.
It would be funny if you wrote the R backward on worm so that it was like Gallant was a kid.
Yeah.
Worm. Actually, that's the Vista board. So
Yeah, Vista's not a kid, okay?
yeah, she's a
Um,
teenager.
she's a
Gah.
teenager. She's finally a teenager as of yesterday, actually. So they learned that Skitter has fine control over bugs, can sense through bugs. Can she see? Can she hear? Can she feel? Can she smell?
That's like an M question.
Yeah.
Do bugs smell?
Do bugs smell? Which the answer was yes, right? They could like smell the
Yeah, they can smell
hot breath
pheromones or
of
like the
the
heat differentials and stuff like that. And like yeah,
yeah.
they're like the meat. We can smell the meat of the Doge.
I wanted to put this on the board because they actually have like a poor understanding of Skitter's power, even like much later on.
They
Like
really do.
I think they even say like she can see through the bug's eyes or something like that. And Taylor like never uses that because it just like doesn't work very well. Um, but like they just think that because she can do the thing where she gets like a topographic map of what everything looks like.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, and I didn't know what else to put on her board because, like, I really don't think they learned that much else about her.
I
Like, she'll go for it. They learned that.
Yeah, I was gonna say like I don't know how to describe like because I'm not sure of Clock Blocker's exact like how he would describe the experience, but it felt simultaneously like she really went ham on him, and that as soon as he gave up, she like stopped doing anything to him. I don't think that she did any more to him after he did the main like freeze all the bugs.
Yeah.
So if from his perspective, it's got to be totally bonkers too, because it's like she was so ruthless, but she wasn't
Yeah.
relentless.
She was. Ugh. Oh, Vale said, "Oh, thanks, Vale." Vale said, "This is so fun. Can I suggest that you fill in the tattletale blanks as the story goes on? It might be fun." Yeah. Can you add topological map of body parts to Skitter's side? I feel like she would want it mentioned. She's like, I can feel too much. When I sting somebody's dick off, I have to I have to feel it too. Like, Taylor, just don't do that. It's literally your fault.
Yeah.
She's like causing her own problems.
I was gonna say, I think a good idea to sort of fill in the gap of like the Tattletale board section is that, when Weld and Pigo are in the helicopter together
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
and they're handing the files, you could do the Undersiders files,
Mhm.
and then they would be
That
like typed up and printed out, but it would be like shitty because it's from, you know, probably a shitty printer.
okay. That sounds good.
Yeah. Um, cool. I'll probably need to just write that down. So could you, yes, read this next bit while I
Yeah, I haven't looked at this, so
preserve this
if it's
idea?
something I don't agree with, I promise it's William's opinion.
Good.
Um, there's a lot of great setting stuff in this chapter, like the whiteboards and the whole idea. Yeah, I liked a lot of the like setting that was built in this chapter, like especially in the intro, and I talked about that already. And then them post gaming the fight and collecting all the information they learned about the Undersiders. They not only share the whiteboards with each other, but through their paperwork, this information goes to the entire PRT and Protectorate and the wards. Yeah, that is cool. Just like you know how I feel about good documentation.
Yeah, it's like literally your job.
Yeah. So, and then for the like things we learned about powers, Miss Militia, she is gun. Um, she basically has like a never-ending rotation of, well, I guess it doesn't have to rotate, but she has guns, and she can even like change out the type of ammo that she's using on the weapons, I believe, so she can use non-lethal weapons still.
That's right, and
Um,
she can pull away all the drawbacks because, like, normally lower lower lethality. It's not like non-lethal really because it still does kill people, but lower
yeah.
lethality bullets are much more likely to jam a gun, and like they even talk
Mhm.
about it later how if it jams, it doesn't matter because she can
So she
reform the
just makes
guns
a new one.
immediately. Yeah,
Yeah. And the gun is like it's not like something she's like teleporting in or like creating. It's like an extension of herself. So,
mm,
like if somebody takes her gun, she can just reform it.
yeah.
Um,
And that's
Vale
another thing.
said,
Like, there's got to be some sort of metaphor there to where, like, it's not a tool that somebody could take from her to use against an innocent
yeah,
person. It's only her who has dominion over it.
yeah. Okay. Vale said, even on rereads, this chapter stands out for me as masterful storytelling. Every detail in the prose works together to beautifully tell the Ward story and expand the whole world naturally. I agree. Um, yeah, I just think this the world building he did in this chapter was really good. We learned about Amy's power, that her power cannot be used on herself.
Oh,
I think that's all we learned.
yeah, I think so as well. I just connected the dot that one of the reasons that I thought the gun not being takeawayable is like a thing is because there is this sort of archetype that I'm just gonna name after the movie that I think is the oldest example that I know of it. It's
Hmm.
a the Kurosawa movie, which I haven't even seen, called Stray Dog, where it's
Hmm.
about a police officer who loses his gun, and the whole movie is about him trying to get it back. And by the time he gets it back, someone has been killed with it, and it's like,
Hmm.
um,
Wow.
you know, it's like this whole thing about like the responsibility of power and like the fear behind the individual cop and stuff, um
Yeah.
and like his initial irresponsibility too in losing the gun at all.
Yeah, losing the gun.
Yeah,
And like how responsible is he then for the outcome and everything?
right, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
And
Miss
then we
Militia
learn,
can't be stolen. Yeah.
yeah, 'cause she's a baller. And then Gallant, we learned that he has like an additional power, and it's that he can see emotional auras around people, as an always on thinker power. Can't turn it off. Gotta always know what's going on in people's emotions. And unfortunately, we don't learn like how fine-tuned it is or anything like that. So too bad there. We do learn that he can see the like the strength of the power of the emotion, I guess. So like
Hmm.
I don't know, maybe it's like visibly bigger, like it's like emanating off of Amy.
I kind of felt like it was emanating, like you know how Chevalier sees. I thought it
Hmm.
was kind of like a either a cloud around them or like a mantle around them that like probably maybe like if it swirls with color or something, he can tell that it's like super churning emotions, or if it's like super calm, then it would be like just a static kind of
Yeah.
something like that, where he sees like a abstract image in some way.
Yeah, maybe there's like also, I don't know, this is a stretch, but like it maybe like an inner core and an outer core. So like more
Mm.
like baseline emotions, like that the person tends to versus like what they're feeling in like a moment to moment basis.
Yeah, I was thinking like circular, like cloud out from the center of a person, so that could be like like what you were saying, where the closer to the center it is, the more like that's what they feel generally. Like if it was
Yeah,
a
it's
really
like
angry person
ingrained
or
with
whatever.
them. Yeah.
Um, I
That's why he saw how angry and sad that that bitch was, and he tried to give her hugs with his blast,
She
but
didn't
it
like
just
that.
he didn't like that either.
Yeah.
She just started screaming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I think we'll move on to the initial audience participation, which I'll copy paste. I forgot to move the reminder down here as well. So it is this thing. Boop.
Mhm.
For what are your thoughts on Pagot's interaction with the wards? And I'm gonna go to the Discord to see what people have said. Um, let's see here. That was in audience participation. Let me just expand this. So, 2 plus 4 times 5 says, much like an overly strict school teacher, Pigot is a common enemy for the wards to collectively rally their bureaucratic woes against. This builds a sense of camaraderie among these teenagers and helps them shape into more of a team, even while they're out of costume. Pigot is a necessary evil in the system. Vale says, I completely agree with this take. I'd just like to add to it. Because I'd say the same, Award's team is made of kids with powers put in crazy situations, and they don't have social combat life experience to handle any of it. Having Pigot in place, a figure like her, keeps the team from going completely off the rails. Um, and then Greg or Sigma Jargon said in response to the first comment by 2 plus 4 times 5, um, I disagree. Management need not be antagonistic, especially in an academic setting. Setting boundaries for children is important, but Pigot is sarcastic and cruel. She builds animosity between members of the team by docking their pay collectively to pay for Glory Girl's damage, and then directing the team to lay the blame on Gallant. She undercuts the team lead when he tries to speak in defense of his team. She is unrelentingly negative instead of emphasizing what they did well along with what they should improve. Not a fan. Agreed. Um,
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think that we kind of want to think that she's a necessary evil because it's like it's difficult to think of the alternatives. Like what would be better than this? But it is like her cruelty to the kids. Like she is a bully.
yeah.
In Taylor's words, like that's what's not okay. Like that's like the worst aspect of it that I think like causes the most problems.
The other thing is, it's like the whole like Snape thing, where like even if you were secretly good the whole time, if you bullied children, you still bullied children. Like, come on.
Yeah.
um, and then what do you have to say to this question, Victoria?
Uh, I have a lot to say, but I feel like I can't even say it because like we're gonna learn more context about Pigo later.
Fair,
So
fair.
like I don't know. I think that she's a savage, obviously.
Well,
Very funny.
yeah, I
I
agree.
loved it.
She is so savage. She is such a like total
I
girl boss too.
yeah, I just love Pago, and that's the problem is because like she is like horrible to them
Yeah,
here
she
in this
sucks,
scene,
but like, yeah.
but I
On
love
the other
her.
hand,
I want her confidence.
yeah. If only I
Um,
could shame people that well.
yeah. If only I could neg everyone.
Yeah, I used to be a lot. I had a lot more meanness to me, and now I can't bring myself to do it a lot of the time. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah, what do you do?
Um, well, I guess for me, I think for Pigo's interactions with the wards, I agree mostly with Greg. And I mean what you said about like problematic Fave. I don't think she's a good boss, really. I think there are things she does well. But like she has all of the arms master problems, but magnified. but what she's good at is that she's gritty as fuck and she never gives up and she's pretty fucking smart.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Like,
Yeah, I agree.
she's not just like a school teacher, she's like fighting a war against the city.
Yeah. I guess that's also why I like her because like she actually is like she's right. Like she is like building this up and she is doing a net positive, I guess.
Well, she
And that's
takes what she's doing very seriously, and from her
yeah.
perspective, like, regardless of what the reality is, from her perspective, it is like absolutely just positive. Like, she is getting people who would potentially be villains to be essentially like celebrity super cops. She's getting the like non-lethal teams their like incredibly expensive gear. She's trying to like have coverage money for when civilians get hurt. It's like a whole thing, you know?
Mhm. Yeah.
So it's like non-trivial. And like obviously there's tons of problems with it and like we don't agree with the PRT like as a whole, but from her perspective it's just clear that it's exclusive good.
Yeah.
Um
Hope go. All right, what's the upcoming audience
so
participation?
we're going to keep having sub questions sometimes for people who haven't read the story before. Um so the main question for everybody, because this is the chapter spoilies where they what do you say, where they shop. This is the shopping chapter with Taylor and Lisa. So
This is the makeover chapter.
yeah, this is when Tattletale tries to she's all that or whatever the alternate form of that movie is
Yeah.
also and when this happens then I want to talk about their dynamics because I think it's very cute. I love them.
If, if anyone wants to join me in talking about the fashion so far in the book, I would also like to talk about it in this chapter.
Yes, we can do. We can. Well, when I had said that, I wasn't sure how you wanted to word that, but
I just like it was too cringe for me to actually
it was
put
too
in a
cringe until
question.
you talked about it, and then now we're
No, yeah,
committed.
but it's just no, we're not gonna write it down
Fashion
though.
corner.
We'll just
It's too.
fashion corner.
It's so cringe that it'll be the fashion corner,
And
with
maybe I'll even make a
capitalized
little
letters.
Pinterest board for Tattletale. So, yes,
Oh
Emily,
yes, we have just gotten to
you
the audience participation. So if you have an answer for the question, what are your thoughts on Pigo's interactions with the wards? Which I'm not certain you heard any of that section. Um,
yeah,
uh, yeah, that's a
but
prob. So M had missed the first 7-ish minutes, so I'm not sure if
Em
M.
said she needed to ask a question about it. We can go on. Oh, okay, she's going.
Oh,
She's going for it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hurry, Em.
We will vamp for M because M would vamp for us. Um,
I did not hear that part, but I'll just have to read it. Okay, so who is Pigo? Yeah, that's a good question in response to this question. How do you feel about Pigo's interaction with the wars? We'll just move on. We did our team builds if
oh, sorry,
everybody else wants to.
we didn't ask the sub question. For anyone who has not read the
Oh,
book yet, at the end of because this is for the end of chapters 4.1 and
yes, yes, yes.
4.2. For anyone who hasn't read the book, how do you think Taylor got her power?
Oh yeah.
Some sort of bug, probably. But
Probably she got bitten by a spider.
by a radioactive teen. Um, then she became a teenager. Um,
It was like a
so
real Kafka situation.
it's Kafka-esque.
It's
Um,
pretty Kafkaesque.
so this week's bonus team building at the bank. Oh, but she had a mental breakdown, right? Like hospitalized. That is true. That is part of it. Um, uh, so this is an audience participation that M can get behind. I will read my initial thing that I had posted on the chat here. Um, bonus team building at the bank. You can pick 4 parahumans from the fight at Brockton Bay Central Bank to form a team. Each character comes with all their gear and resources that they personally use. Kidwin gets all tech, Bitch has the dogs, etc. Also consider that you don't get to them using all their crazy tricks from later on. They're at bank fight skill level.
Yeah.
Um, and so I will let anyone who hasn't answered already, answer in the chat, etc. But I'm gonna start reading some of the answers we have here. Then we'll take away our own answers at that point. But Vale started off with Tattletale, Panacea, Glory Girl, and Skitter. Form a book club.
Cute. I love
Yay!
it.
Yeah,
You know, I'm all for Taylor and Amy
yeah.
group.
That's the ship.
That's the
Um,
ship. That's my favorite ship. I need a name for it though.
Tammy.
I think Pestilence is actually good for their ship name.
Especially because of the reaction it gets you from the public.
Yeah.
Oh
Oh
boy.
my god, my OTP. Pestilence.
Um, I'm gonna read 2 + 4 × 5's answer. Also, Vale, if you want to add any more like color commentary, because 2 + 4 × 5 has a great little blurb about his team, and I had a blurb about my team that I'm gonna read. Well, it's more about each individual, but um, so uh, their pick was Bitch, Gru, Vista, and Skitter could form a team focused around synergistic battlefield control. Gru has good battlefield control, Vista has ridiculous amounts of battlefield control, Skitter has battlefield control that can work with Gru's darkness, and Bitch is just there because they need a mobile offense. Plus, I think her dogs can smell through Gru's darkness, and also Vista could probably change spatial distances to help the dogs jump farther, so there's some synergy.
Yeah, that would be awesome, I think. With them like going rooftop to rooftop, Vista could totally fuck that up.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that'd be dope. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of possibilities really because like imagine how she escaped from the dogs if she was just riding on the dog doing the same exact thing.
hmm I
um
never had any evidence of this, but I always had the idea that Vista has like she must like be able to sense where things are physically for her to change them. So like she wouldn't be able to tell where people are except that she has trouble like manipulating it there, so that definitely helps with Gru's darkness too.
yeah, it's like a void spot, like a lot of people, she has a way to use the limitations of her power as a sensory input, like when Golem is just like, oh, this power that seems like it's like a very physical power, it's actually like one of the best thinker powers.
Not to be spoily, but there is an esports team turned villain team later on in the book,
It's
if that interests
dope.
you.
You're
It's
gonna love it,
awesome.
Em.
You're gonna love it. Um, oh my God.
What
Okay,
if
I won't get
criminals were
distracted.
gamers?
What if criminals actually gamers? Look, they already had the synergy, right? Definitely. They definitely were a good, healthy team with no problems.
They had the best dynamic. Um,
They had the best dynamic. Okay.
I thought we should have you read your team, then that'll give Vale time to finish whatever is being typed.
All right. So my team is Amy, obviously, Clock Blocker, Taylor, and Kid Win. And this is my just a bunch of fucked up guys team. Um, they manipulate the rules of the fight to win. This is really like me giving Taylor everything that she needs to get the job done. Kid Win would be like our heavy hitter, and I think she would like designate what exactly they needed a lot of the time. I'm not sure how Kid Win would go along with that. I think that if he's given some kind of limitation, though, he can do something kind of fun. You know what I mean?
You know what I was
Um,
thinking of? If
hmm.
he's knocked off of the cannon, like let's say the other side has Regent, and that scene plays out the same way, like where Regent is trying to bump him off the cannon, but Taylor's trying
Uh-huh.
to, instead of like attacking him, is attacking Regent. So not
Uh-huh.
only would Regent be like totally harassed, but she could form like a bug cone around the cannon to try and re-aim it so it doesn't like just totally fall
Yeah, and she
under
can
his
do
control.
that thing where she that she might do that she might do later. No spoilies, but that she lines up people's shots sometimes with bugs. So I think that would be really good for them. And then obviously, Taylor and Clock Blocker got a lot of fun stuff going on. Um, because Clock Blocker is all down for like manipulating the rules or whatever, like the
Yeah,
silly things
he's
he
there
does,
for like
throwing
fucked
off
up
in the air.
shenanigans with powers.
Yeah, he loves shenanigans and powers, so I think that he's just not very creative about it. So I think that like Taylor will be able to inspire him and they'll be able to bounce off each other. And then like Amy just because she's so fucking strong and I want her and Taylor to hang out more.
I can think of like
Um
two
and
specific scenarios right off the top of my head from like late game book where Clock Blocker like uses somebody else's
like
plan to do like exactly what we were saying. Like what the thing, and it's just creative moves, but we've deemed it to be called like fucked up. How would you phrase it?
I don't remember.
Like
I just I think fucked up shenanigans was
fucked
a
up
good phrase
shenanigans.
there.
Yeah. So it's like
Yeah.
he does at least two things that I can think of that are like major fucked up shenanigans. Like
Yeah.
oh, I can think of three now. Shit.
Yeah, Taylor and Clockblocker are both like strategy plagiarizers. Like they see what other people do with their powers and then they will like replicate it in their own way.
They're
So
good
I did think they would
parahumans.
be really good together. Yeah, they're so good at it. And Clockblocker is even more impressive because he's so well adjusted.
Yeah.
Um, he's like normal,
Yeah, he's
but
like almost a normie.
yeah. I
Oh,
think Amy could do like maybe Amy and Kidwin could do like some fun bio tinker stuff together too.
yeah. Well, I think that Amy's just like such a universal asset. Like she's like incredibly powerful. The only reason I didn't pick
Yeah.
her is because she does the spider thing, but I actually don't think she'd be willing to do almost any of the other things she like mentions.
This is more in the zone of like everybody is going along with Taylor's
Yeah,
Taylor's
yeah, yeah.
plans.
They're getting swept up in
So,
Taylor's rhythm, like
yeah,
everybody
they're getting
fucking does.
swept up.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So like if she had managed to sweep them off their feet. Oh, and the kind of like I thought they would do kind of like mercenary heist kind of jobs. So
Yeah.
like jobs for hire like Taylor does
Like a
a
Fault
little bit
Lines Cruise
later.
style.
Yeah, exactly. Where it's things that Taylor thinks are worthwhile essentially and
Mm-hmm.
good, but like they shouldn't necessarily be doing.
Right, right, yeah.
So, yeah,
Agreed. Because
that's my
there's a lot
crew.
of extra legal stuff they do that is like I think objectively good, like the
Mhm.
Undersiders, but like it is definitely a crime.
Yes.
Like sometimes you just someone comes to your town and you gotta murk them. Okay, so Vale added a blurb here. I'm gonna expand out my browser so I can read it easily. Tattletale, Panacea, Glory Girl, and Skitter form a book club. I feel like every aspect of this would be terrible. Skitter has to pick a book that makes her seem like a villain and try to hide her duplicitous intentions from Lisa. Lisa picks the most annoying possible book to read for Victoria. Amy has to pick something that tries to keep her secrets, but is not happy with anything that keeps her secrets. Victoria is only doing this because Carol told her this is a way to try to reach out to the local
Extra
kid
credit.
villains to
Yeah.
maybe show them a better way. But all she
Wow.
wants to do is fight them. It's the best and most wholesome book club since Doki Doki Literature Club.
I love that, Vale. Thank you for your
Thank you.
contribution.
And now I think we're ready to move on to my picks. So people may scoff at this team, but I think they're pretty sick. We got Glory Girl. Uh, she doesn't make it.
Goth.
She doesn't make a very good showing in this exact fight we just saw, but she's like a goddess of battle. She's like incredible in most fights. She's stronger and faster than everyone else who's on the table for picks. Has an emotion power to boot. If one of her other teammates were to, because I have bitch on the team, were to be knocked off a dog or need evac, she can get them out of there in a pinch. Um, and then we got Gru for second pick. His power works well with so many different combinations. Couldn't think of a team to form this set without him. Like honestly, it's just like he's so valuable. It's insane. Um,
Yeah.
and then we've got Bitch. The dogs are practically as strong as a weak team by themselves. With this team comp, they have one flyer and three people who need to ride dogs. They would have Bitch, who has the most control and coordination over yeah, can do like coordinated attacks between all three dogs, even when she's only riding on the one, obviously. Um, and then one with Gru sending out darkness, and then one ultra mobile dog with our last team member Vista. If she's able to,
Aw, imagine Vista on a big dog. That's cute.
yeah, yeah.
Just like being crazy.
If she's able to ride a dog alone, her power should be pretty effective despite being so near a large creature because she's impeded by living things, and the only parts of the dogs that are actually living are the regular sized dog in the gooey core, which she would be several feet away from. So she would,
It's like a gusher, but with a dog inside.
yeah, and you can't gush it too hard because you'd gush the dog, and you gotta be careful.
You
Um,
don't want to gush the dog.
yeah, so I think that like I don't even like for the bank robbery they'd be great. For defending the bank robbery, they'd be great. Like they're a really mobile defensive and offensive team. They don't have a lot of thinker power, but they do have like some sensory with Vista and then like Glory Girl being able to fly and see. Like New Wave doesn't have any thinkers either, and they've survived for years, so you know.
Question about Vista's power. Can she, if she makes a change and then leaves an area without like retracting it, does it spring back? Or
Yeah,
can she?
it'll spring back. I'm not sure the exact mechanics of it, but it will self correct.
I was imagining she could like feed somebody like a really tiny, like she made a giant boulder into like a little tiny rock and then she feeds it to them and then she just leaves
Leaves.
and it explodes them.
Yeah, definitely.
Vista and Bonesaw are definitely gonna be besties on
Yeah, for sure.
in that aspect.
I was thinking also like there's a time when she does hand um Parian a bag of supplies, like just like a
Oh
bag,
yeah,
and
and
she's
then
like,
they're like,
"This is a lot of supplies. You need to get it to wherever you're gonna like keep it because it's gonna expand."
it's gonna get big.
Yeah,
It's like those little dino pills.
exactly. Put a
Yeah.
little water on this foam dino. It'll be good.
And then it'll turn into 3 months worth of supplies.
Oh, you know what? I should have switched back to the other image probably.
You don't like the okay, fine.
I just really
My
like the comic
drawing of
page. I know.
thank you. I'm glad
What
you
a
like it.
nightmare liking something. Is this centered ish?
It's ish. That's good.
Okay.
Right there. Yeah, Sigma says you're such a glory girl stan. We know.
One, I know, but two, I think people legitimately underestimate like how incredible she is in a fight and how much she's holding back all the time.
So I'm realizing now that we just like totally forgot to do the end of arc roundup.
Oh yeah, fuck. Okay,
So
it's gonna be
maybe
like
if you
arc
want to,
one speed round.
if you,
Um,
do you want to just write something together and then you can do it next week at the beginning?
we could. I just thought we could like punch through all the chapters in like a
Okay,
few
okay.
seconds each if you want to.
Punch through cause yeah.
All right, so think about your thoughts as I say. 3.1. She has breakfast with Danny. Um, you know,
God,
then
that was forever
or
ago.
wait, yeah, running. No, she starts by running. It starts by running, and she meets Brian at the docks, and then she gets the key. She thinks about the sword of Damocles. It was forever ago. Um, she thinks about hanging out with them, and then she's like, I'm just leaving the school," and she takes the bus back. Next
Yeah, and
chapter.
then 3.2, she does leave, right? She leaves school and then she goes
Yeah,
to the loft and hangs out. And then they spar, they do some tussling. And then at the end of the chapter, um Lisa's like, we're gonna rob a bank.
After all that sexy tussling, we're gonna rob a bank.
Yeah.
And then they're like, no bank. And then they're like, yes, bank. And then everyone's like, okay, bank.
Okay.
And then they come up with the plan, and it's like an ultra plan, and they talk about each ward's member, and we get to meet like all of them, except Shadowstalker. Um, and then they're like, we did it, we planned it. And then 3.4, secret red herring phone call with arms master's secretary. Then it's dinner with dad, and I gotta do an early leave. I gotta meet with my friends, but it weren't meet with friends. It turned out to be secret arms man meeting. Um, he's
And
kind of a
then the
dick.
next chapter is her asking him for a favor, and the favor is, "May I please rob a bank?" And he says, "No." And then they heckle about like, "Just give me the info." She's like, "I can't give you the info," and he's like, "That tattletale girl." Um, and then he's like, "Next time I see you, I'm kicking your ass." And then she's like, "Ugh, I'm gonna get all the info, and then I'm gonna give it to Miss Militia."
Also rob the bank.
Also, and then also rob the bank still. They're still robbing the bank.
Yeah. And then 3.6 is the cops and robbers. Starts right off with, think of it as a game, Lisa said. Um, it's amazing. Like, some of the chapter openings are so striking, and like chapter endings too, but some of the openings
Yeah.
are just like smack right at the start. We heard a mention of the whole cops and robbers thing, how people team up, and then they big time team up against motherfuckers. Um, and then they're like, okay, we've driven to the back of the bank. Lisa
And
grinned.
Lisa grinned. Let's rob a bank. And then 3.7, they get all their bugs together. They get the dogs all big. They break in with no alarm, and for some reason, we're really impressed. That Tattletale wasn't lying, I guess. Um,
I think they just think of
they
her as a fuck up because before Taylor comes along, she actually does fuck up a lot more.
Yeah, but like Lisa's power compounds, so she just gets like more and more amazing increasingly. So yeah, they go in and then Taylor threatens the hostages and is like, "I'm going to hell for this."
Yeah, that is what happens. Um, and then we get to and the dogs get full stronk. I think that's funny how they shoot up by like an extra foot. I always found that like moment to be a little silly, but like
Yeah.
showy. Because again, like parahumans are always showy, like real weirdo bastards. Um,
Yeah.
then we got 3.8. They start getting to work, and then they like put all the money on the dogs and stuff, and then there's the like interpersonal conflict, and then like it gets to the point where they see uh that the wards are there, but they don't really like go through who all's there yet. Do they? Or oh no, they
They
do.
start to.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So this is the chapter where they do a rundown of who's there. So yeah, they've done a lot of like information and building, so far. And then they're finally like the shit is about to hit the fan. And like we thought the shit had hit the fan with the
Yeah, but it hadn't.
I actually like that because like the point where M was most compelled seemingly from like the that was it was the 3.7, 3.8, and that's like things have not even kicked into high gear, and then there's like a high octane physical combat in 3.9 and 10, and then like
Yeah.
a high octane like emotional combat in 3.11 and 12 basically.
Yeah. So 3.9, they at the end of 3.8 they decide we're gonna fucking do this. 3.9 starts out already enacting their plan. So they start the battle, they throw the darkness out, put hostages out there so they can't shoot into the building. Um, beat the shit out of everyone. We went through that for a long time, so we don't need to be too specific.
Yeah.
And then she takes down Clock Blocker really well.
Really, really well. Yeah.
Um, and that's the end of it is her feeling horrified of what she's done.
Mm-hmm. and this is where we get to her being um like tallying up who's up and down and stuff, and then the fight goes on. You know, bitch fights kind of everybody. Then Regent like comes in and snipes as Gru provides cover for everybody, and Gru does the permanently named Gru's trick, um, which is just chef's kiss. Um, and so they've taken down most of the heroes except Aegis, who can just get up forever. Um, so he's more like a guy you stall anyway. And then things are going super well, and Taylor huffs out a laugh when Kidwin finally gets tased, and then we get the great line, "What's so funny, psycho?"
Yeah,
So
that was good.
yeah,
Oh, I love Amy. 3.11. Amy's hanging out with Taylor. She starts texting, "Hey, I'm with my boo." And then and then she figures out that Amy is Panacea, and she's like, "Shit." They do a lot of just smack talking against each other. Glory Girl comes in, and then Tattletale comes in, and Tattletale lets them know that she has the most powerful weapon of all.
knowledge, information,
Information.
um, information.
Either
Glory Girl repeated. Um, and then yeah, the final sort of end of the bank conflict. It's the Tattletale really goes hard on the like personal secrets, like you're you're gonna get it information wise, and then
yeah.
I really like the gambit of being like get in the vault, like it's very
I love
bold.
that part too. And when I read it, I was like, wait a minute, are they gonna get in the vault? Because I couldn't remember what happened.
I love when that
Um,
happens where it seems like plausible something that somebody said. It's just like
yeah.
there's this one
I'm like,
character in
hold on.
Rebels where like he doesn't betray them and he's not evil, but they red herring him once, and he just always seemed evil to me
He just
anyway. So I'm
always
like,
seems
fucking
evil.
Ryder, he's gonna sell him out, and he never does because he's not evil. Um,
All right. And
then yeah, so
what happened?
they're going on. They throw. You get your tattletale throw, which I think is just a hilarious moment. And this is like a formative moment for Victoria. Like it's not that big of a deal now, but she like literally has PTSD about this scene later.
Oh my God.
Um,
Poor, oh, poor Victoria.
yeah.
And
Um,
that's the end of it. They escape.
yeah, they
Um,
blow up Kidwin's shit and they get out of
and
there.
they're like, wow, that's amazing. No one was hurt.
We didn't even cause any damage.
We didn't even cause any damage. None of the wards were injured. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, guys?
It
We
smash
literally.
cuts to the Wards building, and then it's Ron Howard from Arrested Development saying, "Actually, the Wards had been hurt," or some bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it. That was the arc. It was pretty good, huh?
Yeah, I think it was pretty good. How do you think it compares to the first two? Like, obviously, we have barely any data points, but we're getting a few more.
I mean, it's definitely improving pretty consistently. Like, this was a lot of fun. And I remember, like, I wasn't sure at all where the story was going. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It was just, like, a little bit, like, jarring, to be in that situation.
Yeah, usually I can like tell what's going to happen in a story just because I've seen so many
You've read
shows,
so many
read so many
stories.
books. But for this, like honestly, I was so wrapped up in it and like the character
Mhm.
emotions that I couldn't focus on like where will this story structure go, and I wasn't really thinking about that. So like I didn't have any good idea, and it was one of the few times that wasn't like a background thought because on normal shows, I'm not like actively being like, so what's the end gonna be? And I'm not like speculating. It's just kind
Yeah.
of like minor background noise in my head.
Yeah, you're like, oh, and then this is gonna happen, and then it does, and you're like, nice.
But for this, I couldn't really do that. Arc
Yeah.
1 was so much shorter. Arc 2, I think, is like better character work. Arc 3 has a really good structure. Like, I think the ramp up even in the two chapter chunks, I thought like they metered out really well, and the story was given to us at a good pace. And then like I think it had a good punchy interlude on the end. Like Danny reframes the first arc. Seeing Victoria sort of introduces some world, and then the wards I think really reframe like the bank robbery. Even if you were thinking in that way during the
Uh,
fight already, then I think it's still just a totally different perspective. Um,
yeah,
so yeah, good arc. It's like Em said,
good stuff.
good arc.
Yeah.
I think it's
Okay.
probably time to end, so I'm gonna turn on the end music so we can start getting on out of here. Um, I'm sorry if anyone likes short streams, but I personally like the long stream, so I'm happy with this. Um,
They can watch it intermittently, I guess.
yeah. And then to say the outro stuff, basically the music used for the opening and ending bumper is by CO.AG Music again, the same song. It's Do the Lies You Told Seem Shameful. And I mean, that can apply to like Tattletale, Amy, uh, Victoria, Taylor, whoever, really. Um,
Really anyone.
yeah. And then our Discord server link is in the description and in the channel description. The author of the work being discussed can be supported on Patreon at patreon.com/wildbow. The full text of the work is available for free online at parahumans.wordpress.com. And there is also a fan-made audiobook of the entire work at audioworm.rain-online.org. And thanks everybody for watching. Goodbye, Vale. Goodbye, Greg. Goodbye, Em. They're all liars. Um,
That's a good outro.
yeah, that's Em's outro. Um, thanks for watching the stream. Next week we'll be at the same time as always. And we'll be reading 4.1 and 4.2. I'll have a new guest co-host, my friend Kevin, who read Worm for the first time within the last year. And just like Vic, is currently on ward. Thanks, 2 plus 4 times 5. Bye, everybody. Uh,
Bye.
bye, Vic.